Hello friends and welcome to the Pauper Showcase Review. This is not something I do very often, but once in a while I play in a weekend tournament and it did quite well this time, and I would like to share the matches with you. I think they were very interesting, and I really enjoyed playing with this deck as well. I think that this deck has legs, it's a real deal. And I'd like to show you what this deck has to offer. So this is the deck that I was working with for the showcase. I played a deck that was very similar to this on Thursday. The YouTube video for that league is dropping today on YouTube's at 10, so in 3 hours. I did make a couple of small changes though, so we're going to go over that first. So the first thing that I did is I took Reaping the Graves out of the main deck and I put it into the sideboard, replacing one of the Pyroblasts. And that's everything I did to the sideboard, that's it. As far as the main deck goes, so we took out Reaping the Graves, and then we took out 2 copies of Chromatic Star, and then we also took out the Black Monarch creature, Thorn of the Black Rose, and we took out 1 Cast Down, so that's 5 cards. And then we replaced those with 3 Chainer's Edicts and 2 Crimson Fleet Commodore. So when I had originally played this deck, we were playing Thorn of the Black Rose, and I kind of was scratching my head at that card choice. Personally, I think that Shrek is just doing a much better job in this list. So if we're looking at pressure, I mean, there's no question. Shrek pressures opponents far better than Thorn of the Black Rose ever could. And then if we're looking at how the creature trades with other creatures, there's very few creatures that the Thorn can kill that Shrek can't. You're going to be looking at creatures with, 6 toughness or up, and one, thing you could say, what about Heroic? What about Bogles? Well, Heroic is going to have protection from whatever color, and then Bogles is going to have First Strike. So in either of those cases, Thorn isn't actually killing creatures that Shrek couldn't kill. So I decided I wanted to play the Crimson Fleet Commodore in that slot, and I also really wanted to play Chainer's Edict. I had one instance last league where I wasn't able to kill a creature because it was just protection from everything. And if I want to have a better matchup against Bogles, then I wanted to play some Chainer's Edicts. So that's where the 1 Cast Down and the 2 stars went into 3 Chainer's Edicts. This deck doesn't have a lot to do on 1 mana. Generally, we're going to be playing a tap land to start, but starting on turn 2, we can start to do some interesting things. And then, if we can make it till turn, 5, 6, 7, then we've, generally turned the corner at that point, and we can start throwing wild parties. Speaking of wild parties, I got some of these fancy follower emotes. So that's fun. I've been waiting for those for a while. All right. So let's get into the games here. We got a lot of games to go over. Okay, and we can see that they're starting with Island Delver of Secrets. So we're playing against Dimir Delver. This is a matchup that not quite as common as Dimir Faeries. Basically the same kind of thing, but definitely pretty confident in this matchup. And one of the reasons why I chose this deck is because we're going to be having solid matchups against a lot of the top contenders, and we're going to be seeing a lot of them as well. So instead of playing the Drossforge Bridge here, I just wanted to kill the Delver immediately while they did not have any access to counter magic. So we got rid of the early threat, which means we don't have to worry so much about the pressure that the opponent is putting up. And they just bring out a swamp, so now they have access to Snuff Out. We're just going to play Swamp, Ichor Wellspring, and now we have something to Deadly Dispute. But really, we're just setting up here. Alright, so they throw down Augur of Bolas and reveal a Brainstorm. Alright, we're playing another untapped land here. So yeah, this is the reason why we played it out this way instead of playing like a tap land or whatever. I wanted to kill this as well. I wanted to kill the Augur of Bolas so they wouldn't be able to bring out a ninja. And they're tapped out, so this was the perfect opportunity to cast my spells. So I start out playing an Ichor Wellspring, which gets me Metalcraft. And then Galvanic Blast takes care of the Augur of Bolas, and I no longer have to worry about ninja. So opponent is going to take their time and ponder. They got another cantrip in Consider. And here comes Big Fish. Gurmag Angler. Alright, so turn 4, they got Gurmag Angler on the board. And we have basically nothing here, and because we didn't draw an untapped land, we can't even put the Elementalist down as a blocker. But they are tapped out, so we can Deadly Dispute the Ichor Wellspring and draw 3 cards. Find a bunch of gas. Play a tap land and pass back to them. We're going to be taking some damage, but you know, life is a resource. So I'm fine with taking 5 damage here. Still have 15. And here's a Thorn of the Black Rose. So this is some pretty impressive pressure here. Not only do they have the beatdown, but they're also, you know, like drawing cards every turn, extra cards. This is definitely a difficult situation that the opponent has put us in. Oops. Okay, I want to be using this button here, not the play. All right, so one of the best things we can do is boarding party. Boarding party. Let's see what we reveal with it. Hey, we get the Crimson Fleet Commodore. So we don't even have to attack in order to take the Monarch. We just get it guaranteed. But I think that this is actually an interesting question if I attack here. I don't think I do. I think I probably leave these both back because they're both good blockers, and I didn't want to like trade one for a Thorn because I need to kill the Angler. Let's see what past Cooper did. Past Cooper decides not to attack as well. Okay, so we're on the same page. Yeah, Deadly Dispute and Wellspring. It's quite the match, for sure. Alright, so I was expecting a Snuff Out there, but, you know, opponent can play it on their own turn just as easily. Just because it's an instant doesn't mean you need to cast it during the opponent's turn. And they are digging real hard here to try and find an answer to what I just threw onto the table. Alright, so they start with a cast down, getting rid of the boarding party, and then they attack with both their creatures. I'm going to trade the Crimson Fleet Commodore for the Gurmag Angler, and now they're just dealing 1 damage. They do take the Monarch back, but we have 7 cards in hand and they have 2. So maybe we can find a way through this. Find another land. We got lots of lands here. So Krark-Clan Shaman can trade the Ichor Wellspring for the Delver of Secrets. It's sort of an even trade. We're trading our 2 cards for their 1 card, but we're also drawing a card, so it's sort of a 1-for-1. So I decided to go for the Ardent Elementalist here. I think, yeah, I get Galv Blast. And I think I just immediately, yeah, I do. Galv Blast the creature on their side. It looks like they have a Dispel. So they're going to be able to keep the Thorn of the Black Rose, which is pretty key. Being able to have that Death Touch creature to block and kill whatever I attack in with is going to make it very difficult for me to take the Monarch back. And as most Pauper players know, if you can keep the Monarch for several turns, then you've pretty much won the game. But there are exceptions to that, and I found that this deck in particular is quite good at winning, even though the opponent has the Monarch. Alright, so they managed to put down a whole bunch of critters here. Did they reveal anything? This is turn 7. Just wanted to see what they revealed with the... Okay, so yeah, they did reveal the Ponder. And we end up finding a Trader's Edict, so we've got 2 removal spells. We're going to be able to get rid of Thorn plus 1 other card. Although that does mean that Ardent Elementalist isn't exactly the best attacker because, I mean, we attack into Augur of Bolas and, well, we just lose our creature. So we're going to have to hold back. Let the opponent have the Monarch for another turn. So the opponent has had the Monarch most of the time. I think we've had the Monarch for like 1 turn. Yeah, you're right about that, Demonic Tutors. The Monarch in Pauper is... it's something that you have to pay a lot of attention to because, yeah, if someone's able to hold on to it for most of the game is basically over. There's been a lot of discussion about whether it should even be in the format at all. But, you know, like, we could talk quite a bit about the power level of Pauper, and, you know, it's very mercurial. You'll look at, you know, some cards and be like, oh yeah, well, Pauper, you know, it's not all that strong. You know, what does it really have? Well, it has, you know, some of the best cantrips, some of the best counter spells, some of the best removal spells, some of the best fast mana. You know, we have very, very good cards here. So I'm wondering, you know, like, the Monarch is very strong, but Pauper is full of strong cards. So I decide not to use the Deadly Dispute there. Opponent has plenty of mana up. They've got access to counter magic. I really kind of want to hold this Deadly Dispute either for another Ichor Wellspring or in response to a removal spell. And let's party. Party finds Galv Blast. Let's try and get rid of that blocker over there. They've got a counterspell for the Galv Blast to keep the Augur around, which leads me to believe that they... Oh, okay, no, that makes way more sense. Yeah, they counterspell the boarding party and let the Augur go. Ardent Elementalist isn't getting through a Gurmag Angler. There's another Augur of Bolas, revealing Cast Down. So things are looking quite grim at this point. Don't even bother blocking. We'll take the damage. And slam down the Bleak Coven Vampires, gain a little bit of life. And we've got Deadly Dispute for when they cast down. So we'll be able to get a little something out of our creature instead of just losing it. They decide to... Oh, this is probably, yeah, this is another fish. I was wondering why I had to click so many times. We're just going to take another 5 here. I want to keep my creatures around if I can. We're not protecting the Monarch, so I'm just letting the opponent hit me. They don't have a ton of reach. Flashing back Chainer's Edict. Getting them to sacrifice Augur of Bolas. Even though we have 2 creatures and they only have 1 blocker, the attacks are still bad. They can just cast down my Vampire, block my Elementalist, and I have no board. Speaking of cast down the Vampires, there it is. So time for Deadly Dispute. And it looks like they have Dispel. So it's looking real bad here. That's the end of the game. Attack in for 10. GG, game 1. So we're going to start with our tap land. Don't really have too much to do. They also have a tap land. Play Vault of Whispers. They'll play Evolving Wilds. They have a Ponder. We just play a land and pass again. We're in no rush. They Ponder, that's fine. Some really exciting magic going on here. I don't even want to play my Ardent Elementalist because I don't have any spells in the graveyard. Here they cast Stormbound Geist, which is a great card versus Chainer's Edict. This card basically just makes my Chainer's Edict a dead card now. So I'm going to try and Pyroblast it. Finally got a chance, and this is, a great answer to Stormbound Geist. But they have Hydroblast in response, so they get to land their 2/2 flyer. And there's nothing I can do about it. I'm not going to want to... I suppose I could have cast down into Chainer's Edict, but then I'm spending 2 cards for their 1. And I wanted to hold cast down for their Gurmag Anglers. So instead, we're just going to play Ardent Elementalist and get the Pyroblast back. Now, here the opponent plays a second Stormbound Geist while I'm tapped out. We have the Pyroblast in hand, but we can't counter it because we're tapped out. That's a pretty scary clock. It's going to be 4 damage a turn. Fortunately, Stormbound Geist can block only creatures with flying, so all of our creatures are grounded. So Stormbound Geist is only a way to attack and to absorb Chainer's Edicts. It does not block my creatures. Nick, thanks for the follow, friend. Alright, so here we put down Bleak Coven Vampires. They don't have 2 mana, so this is the perfect time to slam it. It cannot be snuffed out. So we just get to put this 4/3 onto the board and 8-point life swing. If you're not already familiar with what Bleak Coven Vampires can do, this card is one of the reasons to play this deck. It's like Siege Rhino and Pauper. We'll swing in for 2. And so far it looks like we're winning this race. Another Consider. Consider looking pretty cool with Gurmag Angler, gotta say. Alright, so opponent does have Nihil Spellbomb. I mean, they know we're playing Ardent Elementalist. It makes sense. Alright, Galvanic Blast is good for the face, but definitely not interested in using it on a Geist. So they have Agony Warp here, which is going to kill my Vampire. So this seems like a good time for a Pyroblast, which they respond to with another Hydroblast. So Vampire is about to die. We're going to use Deadly Dispute to get some value out of it. Draw 2 cards, get a treasure. Do no damage this turn. And then we're going to be able to use Cleansing Wildfire to draw a card. And we find Shrek. Shrek is pretty dangerous if we want to play it, because the Monarch would be trading back and forth, back and forth. I decide to use my my last mana here. I mean, we do have another one with treasure, but I decide to use my mana while they're tapped out to get this Galvanic Blast to resolve. Not sure that that's the right move. We probably could have held on to Galvanic Blast a little longer. Alright, so here's Thorn. Now the Monarch is in play, so Crimson Fleet Commodore is looking a lot better. It's just a free way to steal the Monarch back. So we're going to start with Cast Down. And then I just throw Crimson Fleet Commodore onto the board. I should have attacked with Ardent Elementalist first, before I played Shrek. If they have Cast Down in hand, they would have cast down the Elementalist, and then I'd be able to keep the 5/2 and the Monarch. Although this method we do get a little bit of damage in. Alright, so they don't have Cast Down. Bonus. Not punished. Do they have a Snuff Out? No Snuff Out. Alright, so they're going to take the Monarch back and forth, back and forth. So they've still got 3 cards in hand. It looks like they're putting down a Gurmag Angler here. And we draw one of the best cards in our deck, Boarding Party. So let's just go ahead and throw a party. They were about to counter the Boarding Party with Cascade on the stack. They think better of it and let us reveal the card that Cascade is going to cast. It's just an Ichor Wellspring. They let that resolve. But before we draw a card, they cast Consider, looking for some way to counter our Boarding Party. Ichor Wellspring draws us a Boarding Party, and Boarding Party resolves. So we're going to be able to do some combat here. Just attack with everything. So they block Crimson Fleet Commodore, which makes it look like they have a removal spell for the Boarding Party. They do Snuff Out. We're going to Deadly Dispute the Boarding Party in response. Draw 2 cards. It means that we don't get to dispute the Wellspring, but that's generally something like a shortcut that I have. If an opponent wants to kill one of my creatures and I have Deadly Dispute, I usually just throw it off. And then we can maybe use this Wellspring later with another dispute. Regardless, we manage to kill their fish. We take the Monarch back. We deal a little bit more damage, putting them to 6. So Boarding Party could just be lethal here. And we get to draw more cards. Always drawing cards. Here comes another Augur of Bolas. They reveal Dispel. And there's Thorn of the Black Rose. They were going to take the Monarch regardless. I mean, like, Stormbound Geist is coming in, no doubt. We find Cast Down, which is nice. We can cast down the Thorn. So we're going to start with Boarding Party, see what that reveals. Bonder's Ornament, not that exciting. Just a little bit of extra mana here. In a longer game, it's pretty good, but in this one, it's not that hot. That's okay. Cast Down, getting rid of the Thorn. They have Dispel for the Cast Down. So we're going to Deadly Dispute and Ichor Wellspring here. Get Pyroblast and Galv Blast, and that just basically ends the game here. We Pyroblast their Augur, we Galv Blast their Thorn, and then attack in for 8. GG. That's game 2. Alright, so another nice hand. One thing that you might notice over the course of this review, I get a lot of keepable hands on 7. Lots and lots of them. And that's one of the things I think that really contributed to the top 8 finish is, I was able to keep a lot of 7s. So opponent starts with a Ponder. Don't have to worry about that first turn Delver. We're just going to throw down a Bridge and pass. Our line of play is fairly set. I think even with the Augur of Bolas here, I think I still go with a Wildfire. Yeah. Got to get that ramp in, Ramping on turn 2, Cleansing Wildfire turn 2 is one of the best things that you can do. It is wild. Alright, so they put down Stormbound Geist, which again means that our verdicts aren't really going to be doing much. Edicts, anyway. We're going to cast down their Augur of Bolas here. Because honestly, there's not that much else that we could even do with that turn. We have Galv Blast up, but it's currently only doing 2. There were 8 rounds. Over 150 players. Now we can see here the opponent has less than 5 minutes on their clock. Something that I noticed when I was playing in the showcase was one of the huge differences between my my play patterns and how long it takes for me to make my decisions. Yeah, like, I don't have any problems with my clock for, I'm pretty sure for the entire showcase. Alright, so we hit 5 mana, which means we can cast our Bleak Coven Vampires. 8 life swing. They're playing Thorn, so they're taking the Monarch. We've had the Monarch on the board each of these games in this match. And unfortunately, my land is a tap land, so I'm not able to party. Which means our turn 5 was basically a nothing. And they're going to go ahead and cast down our vampires. So we're going to have a little something to say about that. Deadly Dispute. They try and dispel our dispute. We're going to Pyroblast their dispel. Draw 2 cards, get a cast down. So we're going to be able to cast down their Gurmag Angler, which is really sweet. Really changes the clock. That's a big deal. And I think if they had counter magic, they would have used it on either the Pyroblast or the cast down there. They did draw an extra card, though, for the Monarch, so they have one shot as a counterspell. We're going to start with Boarding Party. And we hit Bleak Coven Vampires, just the best thing we could possibly hit there. Another 8 life swing. They go to 12. We're back up to 21. Here's a Boarding Party. Galv Blast your blocker. And swing in for 6. We just knock their life total down by half and take the Monarch back. What a turn. They're just left with a solo Geist. I mean, they are able to swing in. There's no point in leaving it back. It can't block either of my creatures, so they take the Monarch back. And there's Thorn of the Black Rose. So they have a blocker with Death Touch, but we draw an Elementalist. So we got a couple choices here. We can Elementalist and go get Galv Blast or Cast Down, or we can just party. And when I can party, I like to party, so let's party hard. And we find the Galv Blast anyways. So Galv Blast the blocker, they brainstorm. They cycle Ash Barrens, and I think this was just it right here. Oh, no, they shuffle and then brainstorm. I mean, I guess they could be potentially looking for a snuff out, but they still die that way. They're tapped out. So that's how you do it. That's how you beat Dimir. Opponent manages to take the play, but they're on a heavy mulligan here. And, you know, as is par for the course, we got a keepable hand for our 7. They start with Vault of Whispers, so we're probably playing against Affinity, although who knows? Could be a Black Sack. We're going to start with a Mountain. And they're going to put down Prophetic Prism, redrawing, fixing their mana. And speaking of fixing mana, Cleansing Wildfire turn 2 gets a Swamp and draws a land. So we're looking pretty solid here. We got Deadly Dispute and Ichor Wellspring to draw just an insane amount of cards. And speaking of drawing a huge amount of cards, they Thoughtcast and Ichor Wellspring. So they've got a bunch of artifacts on the board. They've redrawn a bunch of cards. Almost undone that mulligan. We pass back, intending to Deadly Dispute the Wellspring. I think I might actually just Galv Blast the Tog here, though, instead. 1, 2, 3. I think that I spent a lot of time here trying to figure out what my play was going to be, because I had originally intended on using Deadly Dispute on the Wellspring, get a treasure, and then being able to Boarding Party next turn. But if I Galv Blast the Atog this turn, they have one easy sacrifice, and then after that, you know, they have to sacrifice something good. And that allows me to untap and then Galv Blast the Atog again, so that they'd have to sacrifice basically their board in order to keep it. So let's see what Past Cooper does. It is Galv Blast on the Tog. So yeah, they sacrifice the Wellspring to draw a card, and I think they sacrifice the Prism. No, they actually just sacrifice the Wellspring to draw a card and then let the Tog go. So we miss on land here, which is unfortunate. I decided to go for Elementalist, get back Wildfire, so that I can draw some more cards and find my way to some more lands. And opponent just plays out another Tog. And we find our fourth Deadly Dispute. So we're going to start with Cleansing Wildfire. We draw another Cleansing Wildfire. And then we're going to Galvanic Blast the Tog, which they just let it go. So our mana has been a little bit awkward this turn, but getting rid of 2 Togs is quite good. They only have 2 left in the deck, and we found a cast down for it. So we'll Wildfire our Citadel, get another land. Missing on our land draws, but at least, you know, we're able to take lands out of our deck and put them into play. And then decide to Galvanic Blast the opponent's face because I didn't want to discard a card to hand size. And opponents continuing to play onto their board. They've got a lot of cards that, you know, like redraw. So they're able to keep on finding something to do. And Mirror Enforcer is definitely a thing. And I decided to cast it down. Didn't want to deal with the 4/4. A lot of different options, though. We could have easily gone for a Deadly Dispute here, but like I'm thinking about probably playing the Marauder. So I wanted to be able to play my card without having to worry about discarding a hand size. And this is pretty great. They're using Galvanic Blast on my Elementalist, which means they won't have it for my boarding party. And I'm even able to Deadly Dispute, sacrifice it, and still play the Fangren Marauder. Hey, well, thanks a lot for coming by, Onion Lotus. Y'all are, you know, coming into the chat and chatting, and that gives me the VIP badges to give to people, so I'm going to give them to the people that are talking. I appreciate all you coming around and keeping the back and forth going on, you know? What about an Ephemerate deck with a Siege Rhino guy? I've tried that previously. I designed that deck and it didn't do very well, so someone else designs a good deck with Ephemerate and the vampires. I definitely look at it. Yeah, I think I actually didn't put that video up on YouTube just because it was kind of bad. Alright, here's another ATOG. So that's ATOG number 3. But if they want to sacrifice any artifacts of their ATOG, I'm going to gain 5 life every time they do it. Now, there is an interesting thing going on here because of active player, non-active player, depending on how that works out. So the different, like the triggers will stack differently based on whose turn it is. Now, actually, I would just say that, but now the Fangren Marauder's triggers on top of the ATOG here. In any event, yeah, I absolutely want to gain those lives. A lot of choices on what to do here, but when I can party, I like to party hard. Boarding party gets me a Bonder's Ornament. And we're just going to attack with a boarding party because I don't want to lose the Marauder. Yeah, Donut gets what I'm saying. Yeah, and we will be seeing that. Actually, spoiler alert, we're going to be seeing that next game. But for this game, the opponent wasn't able to recover from what I was doing. They did mulligan down to 5 for this game, and I had a card that, should be a sideboard card, but in this deck it actually works with what we're doing anyways, since we're sacrificing Wellspring and treasures and what have you. So we managed to get there on game 1 versus Affinity, one of the best decks in the format. This hand looks okay. We got 2 lands. We got Ancient Grudge. We got Chainer's Edict. We're going to keep this. An opponent keeps 7 as well. They're going to start out with a bridge, and we're going to do the same. All right, thanks, friends. Yeah, I knew, like, the active player, non-active player, I've used that before, but I think that I got tripped up on that exact thing with the Yawgmoth combo one time. Yeah, the same person, too. This whole tournament, I only lost to a single player. Alright, so they're going to Deadly Dispute the Terrarian, which is similar to using Deadly Dispute on a Chromatic Star. You're able to get that extra card draw from the Terrarian ability, and you get your Dispute, get your Treasure, get your card draw. This is something we're seeing a little bit more in Affinity. They're looking just to kind of like find their ATOGs and fling them. So you don't need, a bunch of other cards. You don't need Serpents or whatever else. Just play, the 7 drop 4/4, play the ATOG, play the Disciple, and then, like everything else is basically trying to find those cards, plus Galvblast. Turbo Fog, thanks for the follow, friend. Alright, let's get back into it. Find a cast down, play a bridge, and we're going to Ancient Grudge their Furnace. Because I love killing opponents' artifact lands. And there's a Disciple, there's Disciple number 2. We're going to use Chainer's Edict here, get rid of one of them. And then I think I actually just pass here. And if I could take it back, I would kill this right away. I would just kill this right now with, like, Galvblast. But instead, I go for the Galvblast during combat because it's an instant, so why wouldn't I wait until the last moment to cast it? Well, because now they have Negate. So I still have the option to Galvblast it again, but I decide to leave it there. I want to see what else they have. They don't have anything else. So I'm going to Ancient Grudge their land. Oh, that was why. Right. That's why I didn't throw the last Galvblast out, was because I wanted to save Ancient Grudge in case they played a target. So we get Wildfire. We're definitely going to cast that. Get a swamp, draw a card. We find Chainer's Edict. Fantastic. Let's Edict that Disciple. So we've gotten rid of 2 of their Disciples. They Wellspring, play another land. And here's a Tog. Fortunately, we have the answer. Cast down the Tog. They're going to sacrifice the Wellspring to draw a card. Do they sacrifice the Terrarian as well? No, they don't. Okay. Unfortunately, that does mean that we weren't able to Bleak Coven Vampires that turn because we had to take care of the ATOG. And now they're setting up. They're just playing a bunch more artifacts. And we draw another Ancient Grudge. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of good targets here for Ancient Grudge. We could hit Prophetic Prism, but yeah, I think that we end up, just playing a Bleak Coven Vampires instead so that we can gain a little bit of life and start attacking. They have blue Elemental Blast for the Galv Blast when we try and kill their Disciple. And here's a Thought Cast. Here's a Duress. So in response to the Duress, I decide to just cast both of these spells. The targets aren't great, but I'm going to lose one of these spells anyways. So I decide to blank their Duress. They're able to put down an Atog now that I don't have any removal spells. Find a Deadly Dispute. We're just going to go ahead and party. Really looking for, any removal spell at this point, and we find Ardent Elementalist. So Ardent Elementalist is going to put a removal spell into our hand. We choose Cast Down. But we are tapped out. And I thought, oh, it's fine. The opponent's at 2 life. There's no way they're going to be able to, do that much damage to me. And then they put down Disciple of the Vault. And that's an extra point of damage on every artifact. So they start sacrificing their stars in order to draw some cards. Getting pretty scary, and then at this point when they tap for red and a blue, I know that this game is just over. They sacrifice their entire board, get those Disciple triggers going, let the Tog triggers resolve, except for the last one because they didn't need it, and they go ahead and flung dead. Good game. And I mean, like, we fought the Affinity deck hard. We got, like, Ancient Grudge. We got to cast it 3 times. Had a ton of removal spells. Killed their Atog. Killed a bunch of their Disciples. But they drew so many cards. They, what is that, in 10 turns, they drew almost half their deck. And we found another 7 that we want to keep. So start with a bridge and pass. Opponent has Duress. So they got quite a few choices, and they take Bonder's Ornament, which is interesting. I guess, like, taking our ramp is pretty good, but I was kind of surprised that they didn't take any of our other cards. But I guess the opponent is making a lot of sense here because we didn't do anything with our first 3 turns. But at this point, I'm feeling pretty safe to play a Crimson Fleet Commodore. Turn 4, the opponent has no creatures on board, so it's going to be a while before they can take the Monarch from us. Opponent does not have anything with haste. And they don't really have too much to do that turn, so we're going to be able to hold on to the Monarch, attack for 5, and then play Bleak Coven Vampires. Deadly Dispute and Ichor Wellspring, draw a bunch more cards. They're up to 7 cards in hand, but we're putting them down to 11. We're at 24. And we've got 9 power on board and 12 damage in hand. So feeling like I have this game locked up, I just have to make sure that I don't do something stupid and lose it. So we're going to start with an attack with the Bleak Coven Vampires. And that gets in, putting them to 7. So we only have to resolve 2 Galv Blasts in order to win the game. But the opponent has 7 cards in hand and 3 mana. So I decide to play a land and pass the turn. We draw Ancient Grudge. Fantastic. So I decide to start off with an Ancient Grudge, get rid of their Great Furnace. But that means I only have 2 red mana now, so I can only cast 2 Galv Blasts, not 3. So again, I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to wait. We're not in any danger of dying, so I don't want to get excited and just, lose the game. So we go back to my turn. Now we have all of our mana. Start with the Chainer's Edict. Get rid of one of their creatures. They're going to cast down my Vampire. Did I end up using Deadly Dispute here? No, because at this point, once they cast the cast down, they only had 1 mana left. So with only 1 mana, they can only counter 1 spell, and that means that if I resolve 2 out of my 3 Galv Blasts, we win the game. So this is the chance. Galv Blast face, Galv Blast face. They have the Blue Elemental Blast, but we have the Galv Blast for their face. And yeah, we managed to win the game. They have 41 seconds left on the clock. And that puts us up 2-0. And this hand here looks like it's a keep to me. We got a bridge and Cleansing Wildfire and another land. So we're on the play. We get to start with a bridge. Opponent plays Island Preordain. So at this point, I'm thinking like it's another Faeries style deck. We Cleansing Wildfire. Let's go get a Swamp. Find a Crimson Fleet Commodore. And opponent just passes with 2 mana. So we got a couple choices here. We can Crimson Fleet Commodore into a counterspell. We can Elementalist into a counterspell. We could Cleansing Wildfire. We decided to go for an Elementalist. And they counterspell it. They tap 3 mana and play Seagate Oracle. So at this point, I know that I'm not playing against one of the Faeries decks. This could be either Familiars or Evoke. Decide to go for a Cleansing Wildfire here instead of Crimson Fleet Commodore. I don't want them to just like take the Monarch from me. So I was playing a little bit scared there. We take 1 damage, no big deal. And they play Sunscape Familiar, so now we know exactly what we're up against. And we find another boarding party, so turn 5. Let's cast Boarding Party. Find Crimson Fleet Commodore. So on turn 5, we take the Monarch, and we attack for 6. Seems good. Now we are sort of tapped out here, so opponent can do their worst. They start with a Muldrifter. Ephemerate Muldrifter seems pretty good. And snap the Crimson Fleet Commodore. I mean, snapping Boarding Party seems pretty bad, right? So, can't blame them there. Now they're able to attack in with Seagate Oracle and take the Monarch. Drawing back up to 7 cards. At this point, we've got a ton of mana, so we're just going to go ahead and party again. And find Galv Blast. I end up targeting the Muldrifter with Galvblast because we know they have Ephemerate ready to go again. So I wanted to try and get rid of the Muldrifter so they wouldn't be able to rebound their Ephemerate and draw another 2 cards. Unfortunately, they have Ghostly Flicker in response, which is pretty much the worst thing that could happen there. They're up to 9 cards in hand, but we're attacking for 12. And they're no longer able to Flicker block. So they decide to keep Sunscape Familiar and Muldrifter, but that means I'm going to be able to smack them for 6 and take the Monarch back. We draw a card, Chainer's Edict. Would have been nice to have that in our main phase, but that's okay. We'll have another turn. They play another Sunscape Familiar, which is really scary. 2 Familiars means it only takes 1 mana to Ghostly Flicker. There's an Archaeomancer, and they get back Ghostly Flicker. So in response, I'm going to Deadly Dispute, sacrificing Citadel. Want to draw some cards, see if I can find some gas. And we find another boarding party. So on turn 7, we've cast 3 boarding parties. So Chainer's Edict, they get rid of the Archaeomancer. And 3rd boarding party, incoming. Find Ichor Wellspring. Draw a card. Find another Elementalist. And we get to attack for 18. Now they do have Ghostly Flicker, so they're going to be able to save 2 of these cards. They save their Familiar and their Muldrifter, draw 2 more cards, lose 1 of their Familiars. We get to keep the Monarch. We draw a Galvblast, they're tapped out, so I end up using the Galvblast, get their other Familiar, and now they got to pay full price on all their spells. They've got 9 cards in hand, but they're all full price. There's a Chantry, attack with Muldrifter to take the Monarch, but that means Muldrifter can't block. They end up snapping one of my boarding parties. Feels bad. And play a Seagate Oracle. And a Godpharaoh's Faithful. Back down to 7 cards, but Monarch draws them back up to 8. So they're going to have to discard here. We find a Citadel, and we're just going to party for a 4th time. 4 parties. Find a Galvblast. Galvblast targeting the Faithful, because if they blink the Faithful, they don't actually get any value out of it. So when I can, I like to kill the cards that don't have Enter the Battlefield triggers. And then I'll kill these cards if they're actually like, if Ghostly Flicker or Ephemerate is on the stack. That's the time to kill one of these. Or if they're tapped out. So they have Prohibit, which counters the Galvblast, but now they're tapped out. And we have all these attackers, but first we're going to draw 3 cards. See if we can find a way to win right now. Not exactly. But we do find, you know, like we can just go ahead and attack for 18 damage. Putting them to 3 with only a Muldrifter left. We got to discard to hand size. We're doing too much. They're going to go for an Impulse here, see if they can find anything to deal with all these pirates. They find an Archaeomancer. But I think at this point the writing is really on the wall and the opponent agrees. So that's the end of game one. And again, we found... I mean, this hand here is actually a bit of a risk to keep. Not sure off the top of my head what past Cooper did. I mean, we have the Wellspring, we have an indestructible land, so, you know, we have a turn 2 play, we can draw into red mana. So let's see. Did past Cooper keep? Yes, indeed. We're keeping a hand with no red mana. Oh, never punished. Just draw it right off the top like we always had it. We're going to play it immediately so we have access to 2 damage Galv Blast. So at this point I have a choice between Cleansing Wildfire and Ichor Wellspring. Seems like Cleansing Wildfire is the way to go. Like, Ichor Wellspring gets us to the 3rd artifact, but we're not able to cast the Galv Blast this turn, so might as well fire. You hate to play against Zurius Familiars? I mean, I feel like I play against it quite a bit. Usually against Saidan Raken. Alright, so they get the Archaeomancer. They manage to return their Preordain. We're going to play a Wellspring. They're tapped out, though, so this looks like a good moment to Galv Blast the Sunscape Familiar. It's not, you know, perfect use of my mana. It would have been nice to play Ichor Wellspring and use all my mana, but getting rid of their Familiars is really important, I think. Making them pay full price for all their spells. Alright, so a few choices of what we could do here. Decide to play Bonder's Ornament. Oh, that's right, because I wanted to play around Prohibit. And then I threw an Ichor Wellspring out. Like, do you want to prohibit an Ichor Wellspring? Go right ahead, be my guest. They Impulse and attack with Archaeomancer. We take 1 damage, no big deal. Preordain again, and play a Chantry. We find Spellbomb. Really, really nice draw. But we decide to go with a boarding party because why not? Find a Galv Blast. Oh, this is interesting. Where I think I probably throw the Galv Blast at their face here. Yeah. They had this mana up here with 6 cards in hand. If I throw the Galv Blast to the Archaeomancer, they're just going to, like, ephemerate it. So we would just lose the value of the Galv Blast. Instead, we put it at their face. And they counterspell the boarding party. So, yeah, that was 6 mana, do 4 damage to the opponent, and make them discard a card. So they got Seagate Oracle. We're starting to slow down a little bit here. But we found another boarding party, so we're going to be able to... Oh, nice. Okay, so we play Spellbomb. And then they respond... they want to ephemerate the Archaeomancer before the Spellbomb resolves. And I think that, if I recall correctly... they were talking on Discord about how when they saw the Spellbomb on the stack, they thought I was activating a Spellbomb, so they wanted to ephemerate Archaeomancer in response to the activation. But anyways, regardless, they put Ephemerate on the stack, and that's the moment to try and kill the Archaeomancer. They don't have any white mana, they only have 2 blue, so at this point they need a Prohibit. And they don't have it, so the Ephemerate... goes to the graveyard, and we have a Spellbomb that's ready to go. That's pretty good here. Familiars, like Evoke, uses their graveyard quite a bit, so being able to land a Spellbomb can definitely get quite a bit of value. cut them off of a lot of resources. But, you know, they still have access to Muldrifter, so 5 mana, draw 2 cards. I decide to leave the Spellbomb down. I want to activate Spellbomb in response to Archaeomancer, so that I know they'll get nothing. We find Cast Down. We're going to go ahead and cast down their Muldrifter. They only have the 1 blue mana up, so it was a pretty sure thing we were going to be able to get that. Alright, here's a Godpharaoh's Faithful. Here's a Sunscape Familiar. And a Seagate Oracle. So they're doing lots of stuff here on their turn. They're able to play 3 creatures out, draw a card, gain a life, and attack. And we're just sitting here attacking with our pirate, so let's swing in. They throw a Seagate Oracle under the bus. And this looks like a time for Ardent Elementalist. I don't really want to play Shrek. They only have the 1 creature here, the Seagate Oracle, but if they manage to like snap my Shrek and take the Monarch, I'm not really interested in that right now. So we go ahead and get the Galv Blast back. Interested to see, yeah, I was wondering if I was going to go after the Sunscape Familiar there. Decide to hold it in hand. Here's a Preordain, they get to gain 2 life. So their Godpharaoh's Faithful are going to take their life total out of the danger zone. We're going to Cleansing Wildfire their Chantry, or try to. They have a prohibit for that. I really like being able to destroy Karoo lands. Going to attack in with a boarding party. They're just going to take 6. And we'll play another Elementalist. Get back Galv Blast. So we have 8 damage in hand. They're at 9. They play another Familiar. 2 Familiars, as I've said before, is super scary. And they're at 11 life. The Ardent Elementalists don't have good attacks. I can only attack with Boarding Party right now. But Deadly Dispute is pretty nice. I'm able to sacrifice the Wellspring, draw 3 cards, get a treasure, and we find a Vampire. So that's going to be pretty nice. Be able to like Vampire, Galv Blast for the win if they tap out. And Bleak Coven Vampires cannot be countered by Prohibit. So it resolves, puts them down to 7. And we pass back. We do have the 2 red mana, but they also have 2 blue mana. So, you know, if we try and Galv Blast and they have basically any blue spell, then we don't get the kill. So we're just going to be patient. There's Deep Analysis, gain 2 life, Seagate Oracle, gain 2 life, drawing a bunch of cards. And there's Snap on Muldrifter. One of the things that I really like about this deck is how bad returning my creatures to my hand is. You want to return Boarding Party, Elementalist, Bleak Coven Vampires? I don't think so. So they replay the Muldrifter, draw 2 more cards. They're up to 7 in hand with 4 mana open. And we have another Spellbomb, so we cast it. Activate a Spellbomb since we have the extra one to draw an extra card. And get rid of their graveyard. So we just eliminate all those resources and attack in. Put them to 11. Mortuary Mire brings the Oracle back to the, I believe it's the top of their library. Yep. And Brainstorm gains another 2 life and allows them to draw the creature. They're going to attack in with Muldrifter. Monarch isn't in play yet, though, so we're just going to take 2 damage. No big deal. And here's the Seagate Oracle, gain 2 life. Those God Pharaoh's Faithful are doing a lot of work. Back up to 17. We're going to draw a card with Bonder's Ornament. Find Deadly Dispute. We can Deadly Dispute an Ichor Wellspring here, draw 3 cards. Find Cast Down and Wildfire. Play a Wellspring, draw a card, find another Spellbomb. Attack with our good creatures. They're just going to throw a Muldrifter in front and try to Ephemerate. Yeah, Deadly Dispute is nuts, especially with Wellspring. Alright, so we have the Cast Down on their Muldrifter in response to their Ephemerate. And it resolves. They still have 6 cards in hand, but they have to be very careful about their resources. We try and Wildfire their Karoo land again, but they have a Hydroblast. And we play a 3rd Spellbomb. Pass back. Here comes Muldrifter once again, slow and steady. 2 more damage, we're down to 12. They have the higher life total. We're going to Deadly Dispute another Ichor Wellspring, draw 3 cards. Find an Edict. I mean, they have a lot of choices on what to sacrifice, but every piece is important. So Edict, they get rid of one of their God Pharaoh's Faithful, which means they're not going to be gaining as much life. And then we're going to flash it back, ask them to sacrifice another creature. Sacrifice Seagate Oracle. And now all of a sudden they only have 4 creatures up, and we're attacking for big damage. They do have Ghostly Flicker here, so they're going to try and flicker the God Pharaoh's Faithful and the Muldrifter. We're going to take this moment to Galvblast the Muldrifter. I don't want them drawing those extra cards. They Hydroblast the Galvblast. We'll Galvblast again. And they have another Ghostly Flicker, which they're going to use to flicker the Muldrifter and the Mortuary Mire, allowing them to put another creature back on top of their library. So pretty good exchange for them in this instance. But when they try and put the Muldrifter back on top, we're going to activate a Spellbomb. So they in fact get no creature on top. And I get to draw a card. And yeah, this is the way it's left after that huge turn. They have 4 creatures, I have 4 creatures. They have 5 cards in hand, I have 5 cards in hand. Here's a Ponder. And Sage's Row Denizen. This is a card, when it hit the table, I thought that, oh no, I just lost the game. I have 19 cards left in my library. Opponent has 17. A couple of mills with Sage's Row Denizen, and all of a sudden I'm going to mill out. So they play the Denizen, and then they go ahead and immediately play an Archaeomancer. So I gotta mill some cards. They're gonna try and get the Ghostly Flicker back. But I'm gonna Spellbomb here. Make sure they don't get it. And I'll sacrifice a treasure to draw a card. Because even though... Oh, that was a nice draw, Pyroblast. Even though I have so few cards left, I still want to draw some of those cards. So they're coming in with Muldrifter. We're down to 10 here. They got a ton of mana, but they only have 2 cards left in hand to our 6. Got Flashback, Chainer's Edict, get rid of a Sunscape Familiar, attack in with the big creatures. We got 2 Pyroblasts. But I decided to wait until their upkeep to cast them. So first one, Sage Road Denizen, they have Prohibit to counter it. Then we fire off the second one, and we get the Sage's Road Denizen. So we don't have to worry about milling out anymore. But they're still attacking in with that Muldrifter. We're down to 8 now. And I just haven't been very interested in casting these Crimson Fleet Commodores at any point. But at this point, opponent has basically no resources, and our attacks are just decimating the very, very important creatures they have left on the board. So they scoop it up right here and right now, and manage to win against Familiars 2-0. All right, pretty land heavy, but we're going to keep it. My guess was that Carves is going to be playing Dimir Faeries. And, I mean, I was close. They're playing Izzet. So we'll play another bridge here. We have Galvblast up, but Galvblast can only do 2 damage currently. It's not really like a good spell at the moment. Yeah, that is correct. Carves is one of the trophy leaders. Alright, we're going to use Chainer's Edict here. Nice and easy, get rid of the Augur of Bolus. And we have Galvblast up for 4 damage now. So if they play a creature, we can kill it and then play Crimson Fleet Commodore. Probably going to have to restart Moto at some point during this thing. Alright, so they actually use Ice to tap down my bridge, so I'm not going to have 4 mana on turn 4, which kind of sucks because I really wanted to play that Commodore there. It's a very difficult matchup. Difficult to say who would be favored. I found, though, that this deck is very good against a lot of the top contenders. Alright, so we managed to cast a Wildfire, but they have a counterspell. A very beautiful counterspell, if I say so. Yeah, we can go over that. So there's a couple reasons why I'm running Commodore over Thorn. First off, Thorn doesn't pressure the opponent's life total. And Commodore does. And then also, like, if we're looking at how Thorn trades with other opponents' creatures, the Commodore is going to be able to trade with basically everything that a Thorn can trade with. So, honestly, I think that Crimson Fleet Commodore is better in almost every way. The problem is, like, it dies to Snuff Out, it dies to Blue Elemental Blast, okay, but I want the pressure. I want the 5/2 trample. Exactly, an EDP. Oh my god, you're right. It's not centered. Why would they do that to us? Alright, I'm already having some trouble clicking through the turns here, so I'm probably going to have to restart after this game. Now we're always going to see it forever. Alright, so they put down a Spell Stutter Sprite. I have the opportunity to cast it down. And they go for another Spell Stutter Sprite, so we're going to Galv Blast the second one. And if this works, then we get all of our stuff, but it doesn't. So that's pretty bad. They get to keep their sprites and we get nothing. So they win that fight. Alright, they got a Crimson Fleet Commodore, so Monarch is on the table. And attack in for 2. Alright, we go ahead and play a land, play a Commodore, because that's all we got. It resolves, so we're going to be able to draw a card. Unfortunately, they have Lightning Bolt for our Shrek, so they're going to be able to take the Monarch back, no problem. We find Fangren Marauder, but that's really not like a card that's very interesting in this matchup. Boarding Party would be way more interesting. So yeah, they get to smash in for a bunch of damage. They even trade one of their Spell Stutter sprites for a ninja. So they get to draw a bunch of extra cards. Augur of Bolus, revealing another counterspell. Oh, no, sorry, that counterspell was from before. That was from the other Augur of Bolus. This Augur actually reveals nothing. But they're definitely pulling away. It's going to be difficult at this point. So we're going to play the Fangren Marauder just because it's a good blocker, and I can block a ninja with it. They play Augur, they find Counterspell, they attack with Crimson Fleet Commodore and Faerie. I decide to trade the Fangren Marauder for the their Commodore. Save myself the 5 life. Deadly Dispute a land, they Spell Stutter Sprite, and that's the end of game 1. So yeah, game 1, pretty cut and dry. Carves just, you know, like wipes the floor with me. Alright, so we're just going to start with a bridge. Our hand's not too exciting. So we're going to need to draw some good cards here in order to fulfill the prophecy. So they just preordain and leave 1 mana up. And we're just going to go ahead and Ichor Wellspring. And they have Spell Pierce. I figured, you know, okay, you know, yep, Dispel, Blue Elemental Blast, none of that's going to hit what I'm doing here, Spell Pierce. Okay. So you countered my Ichor Wellspring. Here's a Fairy Seer, and we're going to Galv Blast that immediately. I decided to do it before the Scry resolved because I didn't want them to play land 3 and Spell Stutter Sprite my Galv Blast. So once the Scry resolved, I wasn't going to have an opportunity to kill the Fairy Seer before they could play a land. So that's why I did it before the Scry resolved. And they had another land, right? So it worked out. We're going to throw down Wildfire, and we get it to resolve, which is fantastic. So we get to ramp, and we're almost on our way to boarding party now. So we started out with a slow hand, and now we're looking at turn 5 boarding party. Alright, so they're going to put down Crimson Fleet Commodore, and I will immediately kill it. And then we get to play Boarding Party into Ardent Elementalist. We had a couple choices here, Galvanic Blast or Wildfire. I ended up going for Wildfire here to draw an extra card. And get to attack for 6 and take the Monarch, and it's looking really good from this position. We've got the an aggressive board. We have the Monarch, they have no creatures, and they're brainstorming on their main. Haha, party! Love seeing that. Alright, so Carves Pass is back. We're going to start our turn 6. We draw Boarding Party off the top. Let's go. 6 mana, Boarding Party into Ichor Wellspring. Because when we party, we like to party hard. Let's attack in for lethal here. But they have the Scred, they kill 1 Boarding Party. We still managed to hit them for 8. Hold on to the Monarch, but they have a Spellstutter Sprite here, so they're going to be able to take the Monarch back on their turn. That does mean they're attacking, though, so they won't have a blocker in that case. They'll probably turn the Sprite into a Ninja. Alright, Fairy Seer, that's a blocker. They're going to be able to set up a Scry so they can set up what card they want to draw with Ninja. And they actually went top on their Scry. So they attack in, change the Sprite for a Ninja, leaving up double red, so no counter magic available, but that means that they're ready to use a pair of removal spells on my creatures. But they let me go back to my turn, which means I now have access to Deadly Dispute. So, yeah, if they wanted to kill my creatures, they probably should have done it a little bit earlier. I decided to go for Bonder's Ornament early. And then cast Elementalist, grabbing Galvanic Blast. Not too happy with this sequencing, but I guess it's okay. Yeah, I'm going for Galvanic Blast on the Fairy Seer here, I think, to remove their blocker so my boarding party can get the damage in. They have the Scred for the boarding party and the Scred for the Elementalist. So we don't actually get to take the Monarch back. Red Elemental Blast, please. I play Pyroblast. Alright, so we draw Crimson Fleet Commodore, and we have Bleak Coven Vampires. So we're going to start with a Deadly Dispute. We want to draw a bunch of cards, but they have Dispel, so we're only drawing 1 card. Find a land. So we'll attack for 2. They'll block here. That's an interesting idea, Pauper or Bust. Running a split so they think that we're running more than we actually are. I mean, personally, I just prefer to run Pyroblast because it can be cast without a blue permanent being on the battlefield or a blue spell being on the stack. So like if I cascade into it, I can still put it into the graveyard so I can get it back with Elementalist. And we're just going to go ahead and play the Commodore, get the Monarch back with a ETB trigger, and Cleansing Wildfire, draw a card, get an extra land. So far ahead as far as lands on the battlefield go. Finding a Pyroblast, one of the better cards for sure. They're going to Brainstorm here, a Braid for our Pirate, and swing in for one, taking the Monarch, and having 2 mana up, so they can have a Spellstutter Sprite or a Counterspell. And we find Boarding Party. I'll kind of click through a little bit fast there. It was going so slow and then it sped up. So Boarding Party cascaded into Pyroblast, and I sent the Pyroblast at the Spellstutter Sprite. And then they have Counterspell for the Boarding Party. May actually be interesting to kill his mountains, if only that would work. I mean, yeah, I guess that's true. We could Cleansing Wildfire the mountain. Maybe they don't have more mountains. I would rather just get more mana so I can Boarding Party and cast more spells. And yeah, we managed to win with the Boarding Party. So this card is just... I love playing with these two cards. I mean, I've been doing it a lot, so... I mean, you all probably know how much I love Boarding Party and Wildfire. But, wow. It's nice when a plan comes together. Kind of impressed that I actually have more time on my clock right now than Carves does. Pretty happy with that. Is it worth it to start playing Pauper? I was thinking about playing Black Burn deck. It's only 4 ticks. I mean, personally, I'm a huge fan of Pauper, and I think that it's a fantastic format to get into. Mostly, or I shouldn't say mostly, but in a large part because of the price point. You know, you're not spending $1,000 to buy a deck that's going to be banned next week. You know, you're spending $4, $5, $20 for, you know, a deck that you're going to be able to play for years. So yeah, I highly recommend Pauper. Yeah, they have the tap double lands too, but they can't search for those off the Wildfire. Alright, so we're just going to play Bridge, pass back. No surprises here. Yeah, Pauper is generally slower than other formats, unless, you know, you want to play like Black Burn or Black Sack or Stompy. Nice. Well, Mix Slash, you also, one of your favorite decks are also some of my favorite decks. So you and I, like, we definitely feel some similar feelings about this format. Alright, so we managed to play the Ichor Wellspring for 2 mana. Be able to use that later. And Reaping the Graves is in our hand. We're going to save that for later. So they managed to slam an Augur of Bolas, but they have no cards. No reveal to the Augur. Feeling pretty nice about that. I'm going to throw down Chainer's Edict, get rid of their Augur so I don't have to worry about a Ninja coming out of that, and they're being able to replay the Augur for value. I'm generally against the blue fairy decks. I like killing their creatures as soon as I get the opportunity. Why are you not just playing? There we go. I want to go through this like one step at a time, but it's just not like moving forward sometimes. Why aren't you moving forward? I just reset. Quality program. Alright, so we're going to go for the Ardent Elementalist here, which eats a Hydroblast. I wasn't interested in playing the Commodore. Elementalist kind of felt like a low-risk play. Whereas if I had played the Commodore and they had played like Spellstutter Sprite into kill my Commodore, take the Monarch, then I was probably just, you know, like up the creek without a paddle. That's interesting. Carves actually ends up foretelling a card here. So that, I believe, is called Fate Foretold. Anyways, we're going to cast Crimson Fleet Commodore because we just don't really have anything else to do at this point, and they're going to counterspell it. I don't feel too bad about that, honestly. It could have been a lot worse. Like I said before, they could have played Spellstutter Sprite into kill Commodore, and that would have been way worse. Alright, they're going to leave their mana untapped here, and they're going to... what is that card called? It's going to show up in a minute. I think it's like Fate Foretold or something. Behold the Multiverse. That's what it's called. Behold the Multiverse. Scry 2, draw 2. And Brainstorm. And in response to the Brainstorm, I'm going to Reaping the Graves, and we're going to get our 2 creatures back. So I did this at this point. They were very unlikely to have any kind of counter magic, and I'm getting a 2 for 1, so it felt like a pretty good deal. And this game, for some reason, is just running very slow. So I'm just going to put it on play, and we'll try and keep up. So Shenanigans, going for the Great Furnace here. I'm going to tap it for some mana, but I'm not able to actually do anything with the mana. I could Galv Blast, but I don't want to Galv Blast their life total. I want to Galv Blast their creatures, so we're just going to hold on to the card and waste the mana. We got Cleansing Wildfire, but Hydroblast cleans that up. We don't have enough mana to Elementalist, so we're just going to pass the turn and hold up our removal spells. We're not under any real pressure right now, so I don't feel too bad and just, you know, like, land go, land go. And this looks like time for Commodore. We had some removal spells, so we weren't going to just, you know, die to Spellstutter Sprite, take the Monarch. They're going to play a Commodore of their own, so Monarch is now on the table. I'm going to kill the Commodore, but they have the Monarch. So this is definitely a scary point in the game. They have the Monarch, we have no creature. I need to draw a boarding party, or I'm going to feel pretty behind at this point. And we do not draw it. So we're going to have to play Ardent Elementalist, and they have the Hydroblast for that. I really wanted to get back Reaping the Graves with that, but at this point, it just feels like kind of hopeless, you know? The opponent has the Monarch, we have no creature, they've destroyed 2 of our lands with Shenanigans. They've drawn through way more of their deck than we have. How could we possibly come back in this game? Well, let's start with a Deadly Dispute on Ichor Wellspring. Draw 3 cards. Another Wellspring, draw a card. Play another land. We've got a bunch of lands again. Opponent doesn't have too much to do on their turn. They're going to take one of our cards from the graveyard, draw a card with the Monarch, and pass on back. They have 6 cards in hand, so they're going to be able to answer a lot of what we're doing. Throw down Bleak Coven Vampires, and 8-point life swing, pass the turn. They have Scred, kill our Vampire, and here's a Brainstorm. Brainstorm EOT. Some of you have told me not to do that. I guess sometimes it's the right thing to do, I don't know. Again, opponent carves doesn't really have much to do. So I think, do we cycle the Suffocating Fumes here? Yes, okay. Find another Wellspring, draw a card. And we find another vampire, so we're going to go ahead and slam that too. Opponent has 7 cards in hand, but none of them are counterspell, so the vampire resolves. And we'll pass back again. They have another Scred, though. That's only Scred number 2. We had Siege Rhino and Pauper all along, that's true. It's been around forever. What set is that even? Like, this card has been around for years. It's pre-Siege Rhino. Scars, thank you. Oh, here's Gorilla Shaman. Yeah, that seems not great, honestly. I mean, it's fine in this matchup, but you've already destroyed all of my artifacts with your, what's name? Shenanigans. So, like, I guess you can kill my treasure if you want. Killing my Ichor Wellspring doesn't seem very good. I mean, it costs 5 mana for a Shaman to kill a Wellspring, and then, like, I'm going to tap 5 mana, you draw a card. Alright, I'm going to slow this down just for a second. So we managed to draw some cards. We find a Crimson Fleet Commodore. Yes! We managed to steal the Monarch back. This is a big deal. Opponents had Monarch for many, many turns, but we managed to draw a bunch of cards because of Wellspring and Deadly Dispute, found a Monarch, and we've taken it back. I mean, like, they've spent a bunch of mana with, you know, like, Swirling Sandstorm, Counterspell. Yeah, we've been moving a little bit faster, so Swirling Sandstorm happened. 4 mana for that. What? And then, yeah, we use mana to kill the Shaman, so it's not able to kill any more of our treasures or whatever. Let's put it back on play. We got a lot of magic to get through, so we're going to move a little bit faster. Here's Crimson Fleet Commodore again. They take the Monarch with no combat, and Scred kills our own Shrek, so we don't have anything to attack with. But the opponent is at 12 life now. So that's 3 spells to kill. We just got to get them to resolve. Alright, so opponent passes back. After the Monarch triggers, we're just going to put down vampires again. We've managed to resolve all of our vampires so far. The only thing they can do against vampires is actual counterspell. And then after that, we're going to put down Ardent Elementalist, so they don't have a counterspell for that either. We managed to get Galv Blast back in our hand, which means we have double Galv Blast there at 8 life. If we can find a window to resolve double Galv Blast, we win the game. But for now, opponent has the Monarch, they have the mana, and they have a lot of cards in hand, so it's not going to be an easy thing for us to do, to just, you know, like, blast them in the face. Oh, but we drew another Galv Blast. So now we only have to resolve 2 out of 3, and we drew another Vampires. So we've just got, like, all the direct damage, all the reach. And they cast double Spellstutter Sprite to counter our cast down. So at this point, it's looking locked up. Galv Blast face, Spellstutter Sprite, Galv Blast face. And we managed to win it. This match was intense, but specifically this game. This was the point where I hit 4-0 in the tournament, and I started to really believe like this could be a real run. I have an honest shot at making top 8. We're just gonna put this on play. Like I said, we're gonna try and move a little bit faster. Start with a Great Furnace Pass, not too much to do besides that, but we do have the Darksteel Citadel, so we can Cleansing Wildfire on 2. Opponent has the Plains, and I don't know if you saw that little fake out there, but they tapped the Plains when I was casting Cleansing Wildfire, and I thought for sure that they were about to Mana Tithe me, and I was cussing up a storm at this point. Just an absolute disbelief that my turn 2 Cleansing Wildfire was about to get manatized, but they did me a bamboozle, and what they actually had was Ash Barrens. Okay, so here at this point, we managed to ramp to have 4 mana on turn 3. An opponent has no creatures, so I felt very comfortable just putting my Crimson Fleet Commodore down, grabbing the Monarch on turn 3, and, you know, like, okay, well, what can you do about that, opponent? Well, not too much. This is going a little bit too fast for me. Not too much. They can play the Karoo land, get a preordained going, but, you know, like, they didn't have very much to do on turn 3, so on my turn 4, I'm attacking in for 5. Play Krark-Clan Shaman. Krark-Clan Shaman is not very exciting, but, I mean, it's an extra damage every turn, maybe. And I can potentially use Deadly Dispute on it to draw some cards and make a treasure. Now they're going to snap the Crimson Fleet Commodore, allowing them to untap, make some mana, get a Brainstorm out of it. So yeah, we just play a Citadel. Unfortunately, we don't have double black right now, so I can't actually play my Bleak Coven Vampires. I do have 12 damage in hand, and the opponent is at 14. But unfortunately, they have Prohibit for Shrek. But we do have a one-sided Howling Mine going on right now, so that's nice. We'll go ahead and play a Furnace, attack in for 1, putting them to 13. Our Galvanic Blasts are almost lethal at this point. Go for an Elementalist. I really wanted that Wildfire back to get another Swamp, but they had another Prohibit. So we get a treasure here. I'm wondering if I throw one of these Galvanic Blasts out at this point. No, just another Krark-Clan. Okay. Because they were tapped out, so it would be like guaranteed resolve Galvanic Blast at that point. But I decided to keep it, which makes a lot of sense because I'm going to want to be able to kill their creatures. There, that's what I'm talking about. Boarding party. Into Galvanic Blast. That's the 4th Galvanic Blast. So Galvanic Blast target their Oracle. They don't have access to white mana. They can't Ghostly Flicker. So they're going to need Prohibit or Counterspell here, or they're going to be taking a ton of damage. Oh yeah, the main deck Fangren. I mean, we do have a little bit of synergy with the card, but I imagine our Affinity opponents are pretty tilted when they see this game 1. So they managed to prohibit the Galvanic Blast, meaning they're not going to meaning that they expect it to be able to block the boarding party, but I use the other Galvanic Blast to remove the blocker so we can do the extra damage. Come in for 8, put them to 5, and we'll just pass the turn here. They have to deal with our board, and then we still have 8 damage in hand, even if they do. And this is GG. They're at 3 life and they're tapped out. So, like, they can block the boarding party, but they don't know about the Galvanic Blast. So, on main step, I just throw it at their face, because face is the place. We'll start with the play for the early bit of the game, and then I'll move to, like, step by step as we go a little bit later. Managed to throw down a Spellbomb turn 1. We don't have a lot of good turn 1 plays, so pretty happy to be able to get the Spellbomb down. They put down Sunscape Familiar turn 2, but we find a cast down and are able to get rid of it immediately, which felt really good. I would have loved to have played a Wellspring or hold up a Pyroblast or something, but turn 2 cast down their Sunscape Familiar was ideal. That would be nice, NeedEP, if I could do that. But I've got my OBS off screen. Alright, so they put down another Sunscape Familiar, so I got Galvanic Blast. Yeah, fortunately, like for YouTube, I'm going to be able to cut it down, so none of them will be spoiled, but spoiler alert, I made top 8. All right. So they have Mortuary Mire, which is able to put Sunscape Familiar back on top of their deck. Very important card in their strategy. And we're going to play a Bonder's Ornament, which is going to give us a little bit of extra mana moving forward. I really want to play this Boarding Party next turn. But unfortunately, we don't hit the land. So we're going to start with a Cleansing Wildfire. What do we get here? Another Mountain. And then Chainer's Edict, get rid of one of their cards, and we get to hold up Pyroblast. There's the Sunscape Familiar that they put back on top of their deck, and they have access to Ghostly Flicker mana. Come in for 1 damage, okay. And we find another Boarding Party, so we just have 3 Boarding Parties in hand. So it's just an unending party from here. So we cascade into Deadly Dispute. Ichor Wellspring is going to draw us a Galvanic Blast, and then they Ghostly Flicker the Seagate Oracle on the island. So they're going to be able to look for Hydroblast here, to potentially Hydroblast the Boarding Party, but they find Negate for the Deadly Dispute. So they are able to prevent us from drawing all those cards, but we're still attacking in with a 6/3, and they just go ahead and take 6 damage. This is a lot of mana. Okay, Mole Drifter for the full price. They get a 2/2 flyer and draw 2 cards, and then they're able to snap the Boarding Party, bring it back to my hand, and untap 2 lands, and able to continue to play spells, but it can never feel good snapping a Boarding Party, because I'm just going to cascade again, and again, and again. Finally find another land. Party, oh, so ideal. Boarding Party into Vampire, and we've got all these artifacts. Let's go. So they Hydroblast the Boarding Party, but we're going to be able to resolve the Vampire. 8 life swing. And we got a serious threat on board. They're going to Ponder. They have 1 card in hand currently. Preordain. Evoked Mole Drifter. Gain a life, draw 2 cards. And attack for 2. Alright, so they dealt with the 1 Boarding Party they knew about. They don't know about the other 2. So let's reveal that this party is never ending. And we cascade into another Bleak Coven Vampires. 8 life swing. And attack for 10. The swings on this deck are just so powerful. Out of nowhere, being able to just, you know, like, okay, take 4, I gain 4, I'm attacking for 6. Ain't no party like a Bleak Coven Vampire, like a Bleak Coven party. Ah, that's the best. All right, so they got another Familiar on their turn. Into Archaeomancer. This would be really, really scary, but we have a Spellbomb. So we're going to say no. Even though, oh no, we do have Bonder's Ornament. So we do have the choice to draw a card here, or I can hold up Pyroblast. The bridges, they're super, super good. Yeah, you can type !deck, and that'll give you the list. All right, back to our turn again. We get a Vault of Whispers. And we're just going to party. We find a Cast Down. Cast Down's not the most impressive thing here, but they only have one card in hand. I'm going to cast down the Familiar because if they do blink it, they don't get any value out of it. They have Prohibit. Sure, they prohibit the cast down. We're just going to attack with all of our creatures. Attack for 20. We don't have Trample here, but every creature we kill is a big deal. They actually end up taking 4 from the Coven Vampires, which means this Galvanic Blast is lethal. They have 0 cards in hand. So let's win the game. Fantastic. That's another one down. Let's set it on play for the start. We're just going to play a bridge. They're going to play a ford. So we know that we're playing against Izzet again. Been playing against a lot of fairy decks, and that is what we expected. We expected to be playing against Faeries and Affinity. Alright, at this point, we're just going to start going step by step. Oh, it still exists. A lot of people play it. I just didn't run into it as much as Izzet. Because, yeah, I played against Dimir Delver in round 1. Alright, so we have 4 lands, but we're not actually able to do too much. So we're just going to have to pass back with 4 mana open. I'm not interested in casting Deadly Dispute getting rid of one of my lands. That's just like bad business, especially if they counter it. So we're just going to play Bonder's Ornament here. It resolves, which is nice. And that means next turn we're going to be able to start partying. Love being able to party on turn 5. With 1 mana up. Party into Crimson Fleet Commodore. Yeah, this is nuts. Anyways, so yeah, we just get to go ahead and Cascade into Shrek. Now, this is a little bit risky here because the opponent has all their mana and 7 cards in hand, so they can definitely punish us for this, but it's too good not to do. We have to do it. So if they have Spellstutter Sprite here, they're going to be able to have a really nice play line. Yeah, where they're going to be able to Sprite and then kill our Shrek and take the Monarch from us. This is exactly what I had feared in games previous. But when you boarding party into Shrek, you cast the Shrek. Alright, so they take the Monarch. And they should be killing our Shrek here. Yep, there's a Lightning Bolt for it. They still have 4 mana up. But we've also still got boarding party. Oh, and there's another Shrek. So we can take the Monarch back without combat at some point. But we're going to start with a boarding party and see what happens. Deadly Dispute. Not the best, but, I mean, still worth casting. So we sacrifice one of our Citadels. Not ideal, but I want to, get that value off my Cascade. And that actually gets us an extra mana for this turn, if that matters. So they have the Lightning Bolt. Unfortunately, only having 3 mana, we can't cast Shrek, but, oh yeah, it could have definitely gone bad. We'll Chainer's Edict, and they have Spell Pierce. So they just have everything here. And we end up with a Krark-Clan Shaman. At least it's a creature, so we have something on board we can attack with and try and take the Monarch back. Opponent plays a Fairy Seer. So their Spellstutter Sprites are going to be even better in the future. Here's an attack for 1. I mean, the damage isn't exactly impressive, but they're having the Monarch for so many turns is definitely dangerous. So we cast Boarding Party, Cascade into Ardent Elementalist. So they have 2 spells here they have to handle. Elementalist Resolve, I get Wildfire back. And then Boarding Party resolves as well. So I'm expecting some removal spells here. Lightning Bolt on the Boarding Party, and then they can just block here and trade. This is fine. They managed to keep the Monarch, and we're just going to play an extra creature here so that we can continue to try and take the Monarch through combat. Unfortunately, they do have another Spellstutter Sprite, but that is like one of the least impactful cards they could have been countering. Krark-Clan Shamans are going to be coming out after boarding. Alright, so they're going to go ahead and attack here. No ninjas. And play an Augur of Bolas, leaving only 1 mana up. And they have a Skred as a known card in hand. So we've drawn Ichor Wellspring, finally a good card to sacrifice. We get to resolve the Cleansing Wildfire, ramp up a little bit, draw another land, and then we're just going to play the Shrek. I wanted to take the Monarch back for a turn. And we really didn't have all that much that was very good here, but we know the opponent has a Skred, so, like, Shrek is not long for this world. Another thing that I could have done there was just cast Ichor Wellspring and start drawing some cards from, like, Wellspring Deadly Dispute. They get in with double Sprite again. This seems like a ninja turn to me. Yes, indeed. Here's a ninja. And they have Spellstutter Sprite back in hand, ready to go, drawing an extra card with a ninja. It's not looking good, friends. Opponent's still at 20 life. They have the Monarch. They have a ninja. They have Spellstutter Sprite in hand. And we draw a land. Those games where 3 boarding parties aren't enough. We play the Fangren Marauder here. If we manage to resolve a Deadly Dispute, we could gain some life. I kind of figured I would Deadly Dispute there in response. Maybe I was a little bit demoralized at this point. Or maybe I had other ideas. Oh, that's right. We knew they had Spellstutter Sprite, so we knew it was going to be countered. Yeah. Past Cooper was on it. So they just have 2 Spellstutter Sprites in hand right now. Kind of seems like the writing is on the wall at this point. So we'll put a Bleak Coven Vampires down because for some reason Bleak Coven Vampires always resolves. And now we have a blocker for their ninja. Or we thought we did. Lightning Bolt. Why couldn't you be a 4/4? Well, good question. Do I start drawing with Ornament? Yes, I do. Find another Vampire. Sweet. Vampires buy us a lot of time. It's a big swing every time. 8 points. They're at 12, we're at 15, and we have another blocker. They're going to put down a Spellstutter Sprite, and in response, I use Deadly Dispute, sacrificing Ichor Wellspring. Then they Spellstutter Sprite, this resolves, and then we cast down that Spellstutter Sprite so that our Deadly Dispute gets to resolve. We get to draw 3 cards, and they get this Spellstutter Sprite for no value. So it is an uphill battle, but I'm fighting as hard as I can. We're going to take 2 damage here. Oh, I thought it was 2 damage, but it's actually 3 damage because they have another ninja. Draw another card. Plus they're going to draw a card for the Monarch. just drawing infinite cards here. Opponents at 25 cards, and even though they've had the Monarch for basically the entire game, we're actually quite even on card draw here. They have 25 cards left. We have 27. So we're going to play a Wellspring, which gets Spellstutter Sprite. And then we're going to play a Chainer's Edict. Get rid of one of their creatures there. They sacrifice Fairy Seer. I think okay, no, I'm replaying the Edict here. So we can get rid of another creature. But they have the Spellstutter Sprite to counter. Spellstutter Sprite countering a 7-mana spell seems pretty good. And they're just coming in with the Flyers, leaving all the ninjas back. Except they have another ninja in their hand. So many ninjas. And we just draw a land. So we're going to draw another card with Bonder's Ornament, just another land. Play Bonder's Ornament. And they have Skred. Can you counter an evoked Muldrifter with 3 fairies? Everyone says no. Okay. Because, yeah, you're looking at the mana value with Spellstutter Sprite, not how much they tapped to cast it. This is just game over at this point. I'm at 1 life. They've drawn unbound amount of cards. But I'm going to keep on, keeping on. Make the opponent use as much of their clock as possible. See if I can find any hope. So Boarding Party is a pretty good draw here. Boarding Party into Vampires. Best possible outcome, but they have counter magic. So they counter the Vampire, and we only have maximum 10 damage here, but they also have the Fairy Seer to block, so yeah, this game is over. I make them do it, though. Didn't activate the Bonder's Ornament for the extra time, but I would have been taking more time off my clock than theirs, so... And like I said before, there's just nothing that we can do at this point that's going to get us through the game. So let's go into the next one. Alright, game 2. We got a keepable hand here. We got a bridge. We got Wildfire. We're happy. Got all of our colors. Opponent plays Island and has nothing to do after that. We play Cleansing Wildfire. Go get a Swamp. Draw a Galvanic Blast. Pass back. They cycle Ash Barrens, get a Mountain, and then play Augur of Bolas. What do they reveal? They reveal Preordain. So we don't actually have Galvanic Blast ready to go here. So I'm going to Cleansing Wildfire, get a Wellspring, play a Wellspring, and pass. So if they have access to Ninja, they're going to be able to do the Ninja thing. Fortunately, they don't. So we're going to play Wellspring. Play a bridge, and then pass back, and we have access to Deadly Dispute at an opportune moment. Kind of feel like I probably should have cast the Dispute in response to the Fairy Seer on the stack. But we don't get punished. We did have the Galvanic Blast, though. If they did have a Fairy, we'd be able to kill the Fairy. Alright, Bleak Coven Vampires... 8 life swing. Got tons of mana open. They do have the kill, though, for the Vampire. Attacking in for 2, but no Ninja, so no big deal. We get an Ichor Wellspring, draw another Vampire, play the Vampire again. They brainstorm looking for a counterspell, but aren't able to find one, so Bleak Coven resolves, and that's another 8-point swing. Opponent plays a land. Augur of Bolas. What do they reveal? They get a Hydroblast. Hydroblast is quite good in this matchup. Counters a lot of stuff, but I managed to draw the Pyroblast in response. They're going to throw everything in front of my creatures here, but we have Suffocating Fumes, so I'm able to actually kill the Fairy Seer and then make these both into O2s. So instead of killing 2 of their creatures and losing my vampire, I kill all of their creatures and keep my vampire. I was pretty happy with that play, actually. That was pretty sweet. So Spellstar Sprite comes down. We let that resolve. They're going to attack in and make a ninja here. I go for cast down on the ninja, which actually works. So no value on the ninja, just a bunch of mana spent. And we're going to try and Deadly Dispute the Ichor Wellspring, but they have a Spell Pierce. We're going to let the Spell Pierce resolve. If we tried to Pyroblast it, we would just get Spell Stuttered. But we managed to draw Boarding Party. Best card in the deck. Let's see what we cascade into. Into Cleansing Wildfire. Ramp, draw a card. And attack for 10. They have Hydroblast on the Boarding Party. I think I go for Pyroblast here. Yep, Pyroblast the Hydroblast. Then they go for Skred. Good play. If they had gone for Spell Stutter Sprite on the Pyroblast, I would have been able to Galv Blast and actually win the game in that instance. But I think we actually still win the game here. Because if we're hitting for 4, we put them to 8, and then we have 8 damage in hand. I wonder if I go for it at this instant. Because I know what one of their cards in hand is. They need to have Dispel in order to survive. Yeah, I'm just going for it. Galv Blast, win the game. The reach! This deck has so much reach. Okay, tap land from the opponent. We play Bridge and pass. No Wildfire in hand, but we do have Ichor Wellspring as a turn 2 play. No creature for us to Chainer's Edict, but we find Cleansing Wildfire off the top. Unfortunately, opponent has Spell Pierce. Opponent passes back after playing a land. We're just going to play Ichor Wellspring. Hope we draw a land, and we do. So we don't miss a land drop there. Pretty nice. For 4 mana, they're playing Shrek. Bolt of Burb. Good one. So we're going to go Deadly Dispute while they're tapped out. Draw some cards. And then Chainer's Edict. Get rid of their Shrek. Unfortunately, they're able to keep the Monarch here. Alright, I'm going to slow down at this point. We find another Boarding Party. And going for another Deadly Dispute here. Just want to draw all the cards. And now at this point we can Boarding Party with Pyroblast up. Find a Galv Blast, point it at their face. Hydroblast for our Boarding Party. We're in a Pyroblast in response. And attack for 6, but they have the Skred, so unfortunately we do not get to take the Monarch this turn. Back to us. They have 7 cards in hand, so they're going to be able to interact with us. But we've got a Pyroblast, so we're going to do the same thing again, Boarding Party with Pyroblast backup. We find an Ardent Elementalist. Nice hit. If Elementalist resolves, we can actually go get Pyroblast again. They're going to Hydroblast the Elementalist. So we let that happen. Boarding party hits. And now they're brainstorming, looking for a removal spell. And they find another Skred. Unfortunate. Alright, so they get Fairy Seer, scry 2 cards to the top, which is quite scary. We're going to start with a Bonder's Ornament over here. They're going to counterspell. I Pyroblast in response. They spell Stutter Sprite. The Galvanic Blast, unfortunately, is not going to do much here because they have 2 fairies. So we're going to let all that resolve. And then cast Reaping the Graves. And put a bunch of pirates back in our hand. Unfortunately, there's only actually 3 creature cards in the graveyard, but it's Boarding Party, Elementalist. So that's a pretty good 3 for 1, I would say. Alright, so you're going to bring down a Ninja. No point in using Galvanic Blast on it because they return to Spell Stutter Sprite. They're drawing a bunch of cards here, but I've got some card advantage myself with Boarding Party, so let's go. Cleansing Wildfire. They're going to Spell Stutter Sprite the Cleansing Wildfire. So I'm going to cast down in response. I think that this here was actually a bit of a mistake. I was trying to get the Cleansing Wildfire to resolve, but I should have just went for the Ninja. They had Dispel anyway. So now that the Fairy is resolved, I'm going to Galvanic Blast, try and get the Cleansing Wildfire to resolve. This does actually work out, though. So we're going to be able to draw a card, get a land. And we find Bleak Coven Vampires. Nice. And they're all tapped out here, so they need a Lightning Bolt, and they have it. So they managed to hold on to the Monarch. Opponent has held on to the Monarch for most of the game at this point. Most of the time, that would just mean game over. And they also have the Ninja to continue drawing cards. Is there any way out of this? It kind of seems hopeless, right? Nothing is hopeless when you party as hard as these pirates. Those wild party vampires. Let's go. I was just trying to see. I thought it was this game we ran it. Yeah, I do have Fumes. And I got an amazing play on Fumes earlier. Hydroblast, the boarding party, no surprise. And play the Ardent Elementalist. Nope, going for the Bleak Coven Vampires, actually. That's another 8-point swing, putting them down to 8. And we've got 8 power on board here, plus the extra boarding party they don't know about. So while the opponent is just drawing all the cards, we are applying all the pressure, and at this point they can't even attack. Find a Deadly Dispute. Alright, let's party. And Cascade into Galvanic Blast. Galvanic Blast going for their face, putting them to 4 potentially. They have Spell Stutter Sprite for the Galvanic Blast. And now we're attacking for 14. And they have Blue Elemental Blast, so we're going to be able to Deadly Dispute the boarding party. Get some extra card draw out of it. But they have Spell Stutter Sprite countering the Deadly Dispute. But we still have these vampires coming in. We're going to be able to trade 3 for 1 here and kill this and keep our vampire. Opponent has 4 minutes left. We have 6. I think there's probably, like, this match here, if I was streaming it, I probably would have went to time. I was mentioning earlier how my pace of play was much faster when I was playing by myself. Alright, so we're going to use Wildfire there to draw a card. Still keeping up pretty well with the opponent. Ardent Elementalist getting back, reaping the graves. And then I get to reap the graves for boarding party again. So yeah, being able to cast Reaping the Graves twice. Very strong. And they even had to Lightning Bolt the Bleak Coven Vampire, so that's another Storm count, meaning we can get that Bleak Coven Vampires back. I think I go for, like, what is that? 2 Vampires, 2 Pirates, I think. They end up countering one of my Reaps. I pay for it, and they have another Spell Pierce, so I'm not able to get both the Vampires back, only one of them. They're coming in for combat. They want to draw some cards. I'm going to go ahead and trade with a Ninja, and they have another Ninja for their Spellstutter Sprite, so they got Spellstutter Sprite in hand, but Spellstutter Sprite doesn't counter any of this. They got Augur of Bolus as well, revealing Lightning Bolt. Excellent card. Lightning Bolt's going to be able to take care of one of my boarding parties. But let's see here. I have actually 6 mana available right now, so Lightning Bolt can take care of one party, but you got to deal with the other one too. One party brings Shrek into play. The other party has got a Deadly Dispute. I can just Deadly Dispute one of my lands, draw 2 cards, get another party off the top. So next turn I'll be able to party Vampire. Yeah, so there's the Lightning Bolt we knew about, and they have a block with Augur of Bolus. But even though they managed to get all their blocks in, I had Shrek, so I get to take the Monarch. We'll get the last basic out of our deck, draw a card, Ichor Wellspring. There's the Spellstutter Sprite, so they're able to attack in the air, take the Monarch back. But I'm still at 18 life, so I'm not too afraid of taking damage. I am kind of afraid of the resources they can get, though. So I do decide to make a trade here with Ninja. And they swap out their Spellstutter Sprite for another Ninja. I figure, you know, like, my turn here is boarding party Bleak Coven Vampires, so yeah, sure, I'll trade a Shrek for a Ninja. And to keep them from drawing that extra card. Alright, here's boarding party, cascades into Galvanic Blast, faces the place. So here comes Spellstutter Sprite. We can cast a Wellspring here, draw a card, see if we hit another, hit anything else good. Find a cast down. So we're just going to go ahead and attack for 12 and then play Vampires. So yeah, we get the hit, and then all we have to do here is resolve the Vampire. So they need one of their last 2 cards to be Counterspell, and it wasn't. So GG. And that was a really long one. They had 2 minutes left on the clock. I had 3. And the opponent had the Monarch for most of the match, but we were still able to win it because of the power of the boarding party and the Bleak Coven Vampires. That life swing is really significant. We're playing against Dissonance. This is the first time we've actually had to mulligan the entire tournament. I think we might have mulliganed one other time, actually. Sorry. So we're going to start with Drossforge Bridge, and they reveal Glade Cover Scout, and I realize I'm in a ton of trouble. Abundant Growth. Rancor. I'm wondering if I actually like Deadly Dispute my bridge here. Ancestral Mask. Coming in for 7. Yeah, I'm going to Deadly Dispute because I'm looking for that Edict, that Verdict. I can't find it. And just like that, turn 4, this game is over. Yeah, because I wasn't able to stop them. Okay, so we have this ridiculous 1-land hand. Double Chainer's Edict, Krark-Clan Shaman, and Bridge. And I keep it because it has all the pieces. The only thing we're missing is a land. And I draw the land. I get greedy here. And I actually play Wellspring. Because I want my Chainer's Edicts to be worth more than just a 1-for-1. This is crazy greedy. But even if they play, you know, something that gives them a creature and I get punished, I still have Krark-Clan Shaman to just clean it up. So I was fine with being greedy there. I figured I'd be able to get some extra stuff, and I'm going to be able to get this Ethereal Armor, for example. So it's not going to be a 1-for-1, it's going to be a 2-for-1. We are going to have to take a ton of damage, though. So we're going to take 6 there. But we're going to Chainer's Edict, get rid of their creature, and then play Krark-Clan Shaman, and this game is locked up from here. I'm actually going to go fast mode here. We're just going to play through it because basically the game has already ended at this point. I'm just looking to close it. Krark-Clan Shaman is just going to keep the board manageable. Unfortunately, they have this stupid Crimson Acolyte, and they think, oh yeah, that's going to be fine. Krark-Clan Shaman shan't kill that. Well, I've got another Chainer's Edict, and I've got enough mana at this point to be able to flash it back. So here's a bunch of damage. Krark-Clan Shaman. It's like Clark Kent Shaman. So yeah, this was definitely the game-winning card here. The Crimson Acolytes were super good, but we managed to have the Chainer's Edicts to be able to clear them off the board and do lethal damage. Mulligan. Keep. We got a Krark-Clan Shaman. We only have 1 artifact. It wouldn't be so bad if the artifact was a red land, but it's not. I end up Wildfire destroying their land because there's nothing for me to hit on my side. Got rid of one of their auras that way, but they're still able to continue to grow their creature. They got these warriors on the side. I do have Krark-Clan to clear out the warriors, but I need to find a sacrifice effect, and I need to find it quickly. So I'm going to put the Shaman in front of the Gladecover Scout, remove the 1/1s, hope that I can find something. I can't. Okay, Crimson Fleet Commodore, that's at least a blocker, it gives me the Monarch. Unfortunately, they have Warrior Token and Young Wolf, so now even finding an Edict isn't going to be enough. And they Ancestral Mass the Young Wolf, so at this point, we just can't do anything anymore. We're dead. Alright, so we got a mulligan, but the hand is okay. We got a bridge to start. Opponents doing some preordain with their Spire bluff. I wasn't really sure what Campo was on at first. I didn't have too much experience with Jeskai Wildfire, so it took me a minute to kind of like parse exactly what was going on and what I was up against. We'll just attack for 1 here and play a Wellspring. They have a counterspell. And the counterspell there is actually quite good because now we don't really have anything to Deadly Dispute besides the Krark-Clan Shaman. Chainer's Edict gets rid of their creature. And we're able to swing in for a little damage. They get to Thoughtcast. 2 mana, draw 2 cards. I draw a Boarding Party, but I'm way off of casting it. They have a wildfire for their bridge, so they're ramping. I get to land number 5. They find another island. I decide not to Deadly Dispute there, but I do find the land, so I'm able to boarding party. Cascade into Galv Blast. Not the best spell to hit, but we are going to hit them for 4. And they'll have the Galv Blast for our boarding party and Galv Blast for our Shaman while we're tapped out, so we can't Deadly Dispute in response. What is this? Elementalist bringing back Thoughtcast. So they're going to be able to draw 2 more cards. Seems pretty good. But they're going to hold it in hand, so they're holding up some counter magic. We get to resolve a Wellspring, which means our Deadly Dispute is ready to go again. And I decide to wait until their turn. I don't want them to be able to tap their mana to counter my spell on my turn. Deadly Dispute is an instant. I think that maybe I should have Deadly Dispute in response to the Thoughtcast, though. You know, hindsight and all. Oh yeah! Fangren main deck. That's right. It's got synergy. And also, you know, like, Affinity is the menace. We're expecting to fight Affinity. They have Dispel for the Deadly Dispute, so we only get to draw 1 card off of it. And then we're going to go ahead and sacrifice a Citadel, try and get one of these disputes to resolve, but they have a counterspell. Oh, excellent. Well, great choice. I hope it does as well for you as it did for me. So we get a Bonder's Ornament here, and if this can resolve, we can actually draw a card with it immediately. Unfortunately, they have Ephemerate for their Ardent Elementalist, and that's quite the pain. So we're going to draw a card here with Bonder's Ornament, find a land, find Krark-Clan Shaman. That's not very good. I do really like, though, that, like, we play Krark-Clan Shaman and they just counterspell it. I mean, they do kind of have to take care of this, because if it resolves, we get to kill their Elementalist, and right now, this is their entire plan. I mean, they have 6 cards in hand, so yeah, that's not entirely fair to say that this is their entire plan, but they have an Ephemerate loop going, and that's terrifying. Now, there's a Mole Drifter, so that really kind of finishes out the Ephemerate loop. We're going to draw a card with Bonder's Ornament. They're going to respond with Ephemerate. I'm going to respond with Cast Down. They're going to respond with Ephemerate again. But that does effectively counter this Ephemerate. We got a Wildfire, which at least draws a new card. Let's draw some fresh cards. Get some lands out of the deck. And we find Crimson Fleet Commodore, but it's pretty risky to play Shrek, because if we put the Monarch into play, the opponent is taking it. So I decide to leave Shrek in hand and just use the Bonder's Ornament. I still have a fairly high life total. Bonder's Ornament again. So this is one game where Bonder's Ornament is done way more work than Geomancer's Gambit ever could. And we find Boarding Party. So we cast the party. Cascade into Cast Down. Not my favorite, because basically whatever we target with Cast Down, they're going to Ephemerate. So I probably should have actually... Oops. I pressed the wrong button there. Stop. Stop. Okay. I hit the wrong button, and it just kind of like skipped us way ahead. Unfortunately, we can't really go back without restarting the match, or the game. So let's take a look at where we are. They got Ephemerate Rebounding. Okay, so what I was saying before is I figured, like, actually hitting Augur might have been the better play, because if they Ephemerate Augur, it's not like they're getting Ephemerate back. It's just really awkward to be casting Cast Down into Ephemerates. It looks like I also went for a Deadly Dispute, which was counterspelled. So yeah, the Ephemerate the Elementalist again. Opponent's got a really good loop going, so it's looking pretty bad for us. And yeah, they managed to Galvblast for the last points. So that's game one. Campo takes it with Jeskai Wildfire. Alright, let's start in play mode. And we'll move to turn by turn in a little bit. So I'm actually 5 minutes ahead of Campo right now. We start with a bridge. They start with a island preordain. Unfortunately, we don't have Wildfire turn 2. We just play a land pass. They play a land pass. We find Ichor Wellspring, so we're going to play that. They're going to try and counter it with Loose Focus, and I Pyroblast the Loose Focus so we can get the Wellspring for Deadly Dispute later. They got an Augur of Bolus, and they get Preordain off of it, but they're tapped out, so we get to Wildfire, and then Deadly Dispute the Ichor Wellspring. All right, we're going to slow down at this point. Bolt got put out of a job. Yeah, why play Bolt when you can play Galvblast? Why do 3 when you can do 4? But yeah, that last turn we were actually able to grind out a huge amount of value. Unfortunately, opponent has Dust to Dust. And that is one of the better cards that can be played against artifacts. People have been playing it against Affinity quite a bit. And unfortunately, I have to deal with the collateral damage on this because I play a lot of artifact lands, so they can use Dust to Dust against me as well. Yeah, Tranquility is almost as good as Serene Heart. You're going to be able to hit more things with Tranquility, and when you cascade into it, you're not even going to notice the extra mana. So we're going to have to rebuild all of our mana again. Ichor Wellspring finds Spellbomb. We play the Spellbomb, play the bridge, and pass back. There's a card called Collateral Damage too. Fair enough. Alright, they got their Wildfire going, and they don't have to worry about Dust to Dust from us because we're not playing white. But we managed to find Boarding Party, so let's party. Cascade into Galvblast, they're tapped out, so we can Galvblast their Augur, get rid of the blocker, and just hit them for 6. Smack. Alright, so they do have Galvblast with 3 artifacts, so they're going to be able to kill our Boarding Party here. And they have a Muldrifter. They have a white mana up, so Ephemerate is good to go. We're tapped out, so we can't actually respond in any way to Ephemerate. But fortunately for us, they didn't have it. So one of the cool things about Evoke and Muldrifter specifically, you stack your triggers, so Evoke goes onto the stack, and then the draw trigger goes on the stack. You draw the cards and hope that you draw Ephemerate, and then you can Ephemerate the Muldrifter before the Evoke trigger finishes. Find another Spellbomb here. So we play Ardent Elementalist, get back Deadly Dispute in this case, which makes sense because we have the Wellspring. So, you know, draw 3 cards, love it. Pass back. They have Wildfire, they're going to be able to ramp some more. We find Chainer's Edict. Not really going to do too much good this turn, but we might find something to do with it later. I really like Chainer's Edicts for these kinds of matchups where we're dealing with Ephemerate or Ghostly Flicker, because Edict targets the opponent, so if they, you know, flicker a bunch of creatures, they're still going to have to sacrifice one when the spell resolves. Alright, here's a Spellbomb. They just counterspell this second Spellbomb. And then we Deadly Dispute the Ichor Wellspring, and they have another counterspell for that. We draw a Galv Blast, play a land, pass the turn. Oh, we actually resolved the Galv Blast. Okay, so it looks like I had a moment there, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to throw this Galv Blast at their face. We only had the one creature in the graveyard, so Reaping the Graves would have only got us one thing back. Reaping the Graves will be better later. Alright, here's a Mole Drifter, full price. Or as Snap Bolt calls it, the Mully D. Alright, so we play the Forest because I want to tap the Forest specifically to get this Chainer's Edict off. Okay, they actually abrade the Ardent Elementalist in response. So this might be the turn for Reaping the Graves. Yep. So we Reap the Graves here, get back Boarding Party and Elementalist. Unfortunately, we don't have the mana to cast either of them yet. But, I mean, that is still a 2-for-1. And if we get, I mean, these are also 2-for-1s in themselves as well. So much value. It's a circus of value over here. Alright, so they got Late to Dinner on their Mole Drifter. That's super good. But we got Spellbomb in order to respond to it and draw a card. So I think that they don't even get a food here. Yep, no food. Spell just fizzles. And we're going to be able to party. Let's see what we hit. We hit Crimson Fleet Commodore. Here comes Shrek. Alright, so they got Blue Elemental Blast for Shrek. Hey, Live and Riot, thanks for the follow, friend. Live and Riot. Seems more like Live and Riot would make more sense. English. What a language. Alright, so we go for Pyroblast on the Blue Elemental Blast, but they have Counterspell. And they're counterspelling the Boarding Party. So Counterspell resolves, Boarding Party is off the stack, Pyroblast resolves, and we get Shrek. Got the Monarch, we're drawing extra cards every turn. It's starting to look pretty good. But remember, this game we got hit by Dust to Dust. That always makes things a lot harder. Alright, we're going to go for Galv Blast on the Archaeomancer here for some reason. Not a huge fan of that play. They still had one card in hand. But I guess that does mean they can't, like, Blue Elemental Blast the Galv Blast. And there's another Dust to Dust. So that's the second Dust to Dust they've cast this game. And there's the Blue Elemental Blast, gets rid of Shrek. But they have no creatures on the board, so yeah, that makes sense. Get rid of their creature so they can't take the Monarch before Blue Elemental Blast becomes a problem. It would have been a huge blowout if they had another Ephemerate. Because they hadn't even cast any Ephemerate yet. So that was risky if their last card was Ephem. But it paid off. So we're going to Cleansing Wildfire, draw a card, get a land. We find an Elementalist. Excellent draw, so we can resolve this Elementalist and get back... I always figured I was going to go for Reaping the Graves, but I go for Galv Blast here. Okay, they go for Elementalist. They get Late to Dinner back. And then they can Late to Dinner their Archaeomancer and have enough mana left to eat the food. Or play Counterspell. That's a really good turn from Campo. But we draw Bleak Coven Vampires. So we're going to start with a Chainer's Edict. They sacrifice Archaeomancer. And then I go for Ardent Elementalist to draw out the Counterspell. And then I think Galv Blast the Elementalist just so I can attack in for 2. They got Augur of Bolus, which reveals Cleansing Wildfire. They can Cleansing Wildfire to draw a card, take a land out of their deck. They eat the food. They have one card in hand, unknown. Start with Cleansing Wildfire, pull a land out, draw Shrek. Play Bleak Coven Vampires, but actually realize after I've cast it that I only have 2 artifacts. We were so late in the game, I made the assumption that I had the artifacts in play, because at this point in the game, turn 13, I would always have enough artifacts in play, but opponent cast Dust to Dust twice, so we just have a 5-mana 4/3. Ooh, yeah, no kidding. Eternal Witness would be way too good. I mean, like, already the Elementalist and the Archaeomancer are kind of scary. Alright, here's a Muldrifter full price. Draw 2 cards. Ephemerate the Muldrifter. Galv Blast on my Vampire. Things are really turning around again. They got an attack here. This seems like a chump, but they have another Blue Elemental Blast, use all their cards out of their hand, basically, and they're able to take the Monarch. But they used a ton of resources in order to take the Monarch back, and they only have 2 cards left in hand. And I have Crimson Fleet Commodore to easily take it back. So we do just that. Play Spellbomb, and then I hold up Pyroblast and Deadly Dispute. So once the Ephemerate targets the Muldrifter, we Pyroblast the Muldrifter. And Ephemerate fizzles. Cleansing Wildfire to draw another card for Campo. And Galv Blast kills my Crimson Fleet Commodore. But I have Deadly Dispute, so I'll go ahead and sacrifice it. Draw some cards, find a Bleak Coven Vampire, and this time I have enough artifacts. Unless they cast Dust to Dust again. So I use the Spellbomb, get rid of their graveyard. If I want to draw a card, I have to use my treasure. And then I won't have enough artifacts again for Vampire. But I do decide to draw the card, so we'll just have to deal with that as is and hope that we find something. I mean, I guess I can just use Deadly Dispute to make another artifact. Witness plus Unearth, GG, yeah, no kidding. Well, I am a Golgari guy. Bring on Eternal Witness. Oh, we find Boarding Party? Let's party. They have 2 cards in hand. They need one of them to be an answer to Boarding Party. We find Wellspring on top. Let's draw another card, get another artifact in play. Now we have something to sacrifice to Deadly Dispute. Do they have an answer to Boarding Party? They don't. They go to 3 and we take the Monarch back. On end step, do we draw Galv Blast? We don't. We draw Fangren Marauder. Here's a third Dust to Dust. Alright, so we're going to Deadly Dispute the Ichor Wellspring here, draw a ton of cards, and they're going to get rid of our Vault. But we still have 1, 2, 3 artifacts, so we can still play the Bleak Coven Vampires on our turn. And we also draw Galv Blast. So we play Bridge, attack. We're going to do this properly, I think. So yeah, we get the chump. Then we play a Vampire. So Vampire's lethal. And they don't have the answer to it, so we don't have to show them the Galv Blast. Alright, we'll start off on play, and then we'll slow down once we get a little bit further. Alright, so we got the mulligan here. Play a Bridge. They Ash Barrens, find a Plains, and Preordain. Cleansing Wildfire resolves. We get to ramp on turn 2. Always good. And then, okay, we're going to slow down here. So opponent misses their land drop. They have no creatures in play. And we get to play Shrek on turn 4. Or sorry, on turn 3 rather. Shrek on turn 3. We get the Monarch. They have no creatures. They managed to hit a land drop this time. But again, they have no plays. We've just got a ton of mana now. We can hit with 5 with Shrek and then put down Bleak Coven Vampires. Hit them for 4 again. So they go to 11 and we've got 9 power on board. They have Galvanic Blast for Shrek. And they just pass back. And we get land so we can party. So this kind of shows like what you can do with that turn 2 Wildfire. The opponent missed a land drop, and we had turn 2 Wildfire, so we were able to just run away with the game. Instead of, like 1, 2, 3, 4, we went 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. And, I mean, Spellbomb is a fine hit. We could have definitely hit better, like hit Vampires or hit Galvanic Blast, but this game is over, right? And that's the match. So we had some pretty intense games there, like game 1, super interesting. Campo really showed the strength of their deck. And then game 2, I was able to show the resilience of mostly Rakdos by winning through 3 Dust to Dust. And then game 3 wasn't really a contest. Campo missed a land drop, and I was able to turn 2 Wildfire and just run away with it. So, I don't know how much of you play like tournament paper Magic, but one of the things that I really like about paper Magic is once you get into the top 8, play and draw is depending on standings. So if you're first place out of the top 8, you're going to be able to take the play for the rest of your game 1s. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way on Moto. So even though I was in 3rd place and Dissonance was in 6th place, Dissonance won the roll and got to go first. So that's my little like, wah, wah, wah. I wanted to go first because I had a better standing than my opponent. All right, so now that that's over with, taking a look at our hand, we know what the opponent is playing, and we know this hand is no good. I would actually keep this hand versus an unknown opponent, but knowing that we're facing Bogles, I mulligan this. Yeah, I found some versions of this deck. Some of them had 2 Chromatic Star. I was playing this deck previously. I had 2 stars in it. I removed the stars for Edicts. I guess you could say I removed the stars for Bonner's Ornaments. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. All right, so this hand here, we've mulliganed once, and we found a hand with Krark-Clan Shaman, but only 1 land. We decide to keep this. It's a risk, but we're on the draw. And if we can find land, this hand could be good. And fortunately, our opponent starts with a tap land. That's huge. If they had started with Bogle turn 1, this game would have gone totally differently. And we just immediately draw land off the top. It's nice to be so handsome, so talented at Magic. All right, so here, opponent taps 2 lands and plays Ledgewalker. Again, super lucky. If they had played, like land, played Bogle, and then put an enchantment on it, I don't know if we would have been able to do anything. But the stars align. And I'm able to play Krark-Clan Shaman with 2 artifacts. Feeling pretty good here. All right, opponent plays Abundant Growth. and passes. And once that happened, once they pass with the Ledgewalker, I knew that I was fine. I felt super confident we were going to win this game at this point. I thought about attacking, thought better. No, we just got to keep this creature on board as long as possible. Find a boarding party, play another Wellspring, pass the turn. If we draw a land, we'll play it, obviously. Find a land, fantastic. Cleansing Wildfire, ramp up. Get ready for either Vampire or Boarding Party next turn. They're going to attack with Ledgewalker. Sure, I'll take 1 damage. No problem. So this is a big reason why we're playing Krark-Clan Shaman in the main. It's good against Bogles, it's good against Elves, it's good against Stompy, it's good against a lot of stuff. Slivers, apparently. Slivers made top 8 of this tournament. How cool is that? Alright, so we got a land here, so let's party. Party into Ardent Elementalist. Get the Wildfire back. Attack for 6. They chump, sure. Get rid of a Bogle, that's good. I mean, technically as a scout, but they're all Bogles, right? Yeah, we'll take 1 damage, no problem. Not sacrificing that Krark-Clan Shaman until I get at least a 2-for-1. And I mean, like, you want to leave creatures on the board, that's no problem. The only thing I care about are your auras. They still have 6 cards in hand, but they don't want to play auras into my Krark-Clan Shaman. Good Slivers players get 4 hits with Winding Way and 5 hits on Lead the Stampede. Absolutely. Although, I think if I remember correctly, the Slivers pilot that made it to the top 8 wasn't playing main deck Lead the Stampede. I think they were playing Abundant Growth in that slot. Alright, let's attack in. No fear attacking in with Elementalist. If they want to trade with Elementalist, I'm fine with that. They don't. They'll just take the 2 damage. And then we'll play Vampire, gain some life. Abundant Growth is pretty great, and when you're playing a 3-color Slivers deck, you're going to want to have, you know, some access to your off colors. Another Ledgewalker, sure. I mean, they've got infinite creatures, but I don't really mind. Because I got Krark-Clan. Okay, so we decide to get rid of all of their creatures. We're going to be able to attack in for 10 damage here, and then finish them off with a Galvanic Blast. Okay, so you can see it is possible to beat Bogles. You just got to be really lucky. Alright, so I keep a 1-land hand again. This one isn't quite as good as the last one, but I mean, it's basically the same hand. Drossforge Bridge, Krark-Clan Shaman. I kept the other one, so I kept this one too. And unfortunately, the opponent had a much better hand compared to their first game. So I play my tap land, and they play Abundant Growth and Rancor. I play Krark-Clan Shaman. They play Crimson Acolyte in response. I sacrifice the Krark-Clan Shaman so I can kill the Bogle, and then they just play another Bogle, and I have no lands. And at this point, they just run away with it. I have no lands, so can't really play. Huge gamble on that one. I probably should have mulliganed, looked for a better 6, but I figured like this was basically the same hand as game 1, so I gave it a shot, and I got punished. So we're going to keep this hand, obviously. We got Chainer's Edict. We've got Serene Heart. This hand looks amazing. It looks so good. But they play Young Wolf turn 1. Out of all the things they could do, they play Young Wolf turn 1. Which basically makes this a garbage card. I should have actually just thrown off the Chainer's Edict here, got one of the tokens off the Young Wolf, and then maybe I could get like the last one off with a cast down later. But opponent's not giving me any time to recover. They put Ancestral Mask onto their Bogle. I use Deadly Dispute to sacrifice Citadel so I can get green mana. Serene Heart, get rid of Ethereal Armor and Ancestral Mask, so I only take the 2 damage that turn, but they're able to start to rebuild, put Ethereal Armor onto their Bogle, and continue attacking. Because I didn't have any creatures that were able to trade with what they had. And now they got another Young Wolf, so my Chainer's Edict is looking particularly bad. I play Commodore because that's all I have at this point. It means I get to draw an extra card, but, you know, like, they're going to be able to easily take the Monarch. I eat one of the Wolves with Shrek and take 6. Find a Deadly Dispute. Go ahead and play Vampire here to gain some life. Try and find some way to recover here. They're going to block my Shrek with their Young Wolf, taking it off the board, but I get the Monarch back to draw an extra card, hoping to find any kind of answer to what they're doing. They come in for a bunch of damage again. I trade with 1/2 of the Young Wolf on my Vampire here, because the Bogle has First Strike. And I'm thinking, you know, I can draw a few cards here. I can draw Chainer's Edict. I can draw Krark-Clan Shaman. I can draw Cast Down, Galvanic Blast. Lots of cards I could draw here. But I draw Boarding Party instead. So I have, again, a couple of options on what I can do. I can Boarding Party, which gives me a blocker, and I get to Cascade. So maybe I can Cascade into something of value. I could Ichor Wellspring into Deadly Dispute, and then I would have 3 mana left. So I would get the opportunity to draw 3 cards and try and find something. In the end, I decide to Boarding Party, give myself a blocker, and hopefully Cascade into something good. And here's the ultimate troll for the end of the series. Boarding Party into Wellspring. And what's the next card that I draw with Wellspring? Serene Heart. Serene Heart was the next card, and it would have gotten rid of Ethereal Armor. I mean, they still get to keep the Rancors, though, so realistically, it wouldn't have been that hot. But yeah, I could have, like, Deadly Dispute, the Wellspring, and then I would have gotten Serene Heart. And then I could have cast Serene Heart on their turn, and I would have only taken 3. And maybe I could have went somewhere from there. But as is, they had Crimson Acolyte. They could give their creature protection from red. And that's the end of the game. And that's the end of the tournament. Thanks, everybody, for sticking with me for so long. This was a rather long stream for me. 3.5 hours, but we got through 9 matches of Magic. So that's quite a bit of content. And I think that we were really able to show off the strength of this deck versus the meta. So I'm not exactly sure how this deck is going to be doing against off-meta decks, but if we're looking at a deck that you want to be able to beat Affinity, you want to be able to beat Faeries, if you want to be able to beat, what was the other one we beat? It was Jeskai Wildfire. If you want to be able to beat Familiars, I think this is an excellent choice. I think that we also have a fairly good matchup against Burn if we have enough time to get these vampires out. So, yeah, I think that I would highly recommend this deck. While we do have some weaknesses against Bogles, and I'm sure that some of the other fast decks we're going to be a little bit of trouble, I think that this is a really, really solid option for the format. We've been seeing a lot of Jund, and you know, this one does splash a little bit of green, but it's mostly Rakdos, and it's really good. Alright, let's pull up the deck list here so you can check it out one last time. We're going to be signing out in a little bit, but I am going to do a raid, so if you want to stick around, there is some more magic coming. I'm not sure that I would actually change anything out of this deck. Let me actually open this up a little bit so you can see some of the cards on the side. Dash hopes. Yeah, my hopes were dashed on that last match. I would have, like any other matchup, anyone else in the top 8. There was another Bogles player, so I didn't want to fight the other Bogles player, but anybody else, I would have felt great. Get those 2 Bogles players up against each other in the quarterfinals, get them to knock one of the other ones out, and then we can have some magic. But yeah, I'm incredibly satisfied with how this deck has been operating. Like I said, I made a couple of adjustments so we could get those Chainer's Edicts and Bonder's Ornaments and Crimson Fleet Commodore into the deck, and I'm really satisfied with how the changes have allowed this deck to operate. I would highly recommend it.